Ed, and Eddy. Hey Wolfpack, Cat's back with another surprise tier list. Happy Catter Day. We're celebrating the month of Fools with one of the greatest show with the best fools, Ed, and Eddy. Yep, I am a huge Ed, and Eddy fan. I do remember the show back when it aired on TV. It's still being rerun currently today on the Adult Swim block, but Ed, and Eddy, if you don't know, it is a hilarious comedy cartoon, one of the funniest kids cartoons ever made, still enjoyed to this very day by the kids who grew up and are now adults, has so much humor, so much fun, creative imagination, and wacky, outlandish cartoon hijinks. Hey, Toon Lover. Hey, glad to see you. Doing a surprise tier list. It is going to be a short one, because as you can see, we have a very limited cast of characters. So, for those of you who somehow don't know, Ed, and Eddy, it's a great comedy. It's a classic. It is a staple of Cartoon Network, and it is one of the funniest comedies to ever exist. Basically, a trio of kids all named Ed, Double D, Edward, and Eddy, are three outcasts who are trying to make a quick buck and trying to basically become friends with the cul-de-sac kids, all the kids down low. They want to become a part of the cul-de-sac kids' clique, their group, hang out and make friends, and make easy money. However, things go hilariously wrong. Wacky hijinks ensue, and the Eds comically get over-the-top comeuppance every time they screw up. They get beaten up, humiliated, or full-blown raped at the end of half their episodes. Yeah, the Eds is a very raunchy, mean-spirited dark comedy. It is a mean-spirited show. Bullying is pretty much a common trope here, but here it's a lot more funnier because of how outlandish and cartoony it goes. The Eds basically react like normal kids, but with over-exaggerated reactions and comedic hijinks around their basically escapades. The Ed adventures are all great, so many great episodes, but I decided to talk about the characters because despite Ed, and Eddy being a very long-lasting show with so many episodes and adventures, the cast was very minimal. It basically took place in a cul-de-sac, a regular neighborhood. Most of the show took place over summertime and one season where they were in school. Hey Mad Dog, hi Cat, hey Akira. It had a very small cast of characters. We had the three Eds who were the main protagonists, and all the assorted cul-de-sac kids, their wacky neighbors, the kids next door, all the kids they tried to befriend at school and in the cul-de-sac only to get comically rejected, and some bizarre one-offs pets up here too, since again, very small cast. And we're going to be ranking this cast on this tier list. So I'll have to explain if this is your first tier list ever. Going to be ranking all the characters who appeared on Ed, and Eddy from best to worst. This is a tier list. All their pictures will go up here on a good old-fashioned ranking. Hello. Hi, Blacksmith Orange. So, Ed, and Eddy. Yep, I am a huge fan of Ed, and Eddy. It is one of my favorite cartoons, next to Batman the Animated Series, the Clone Wars, Justice League, and the comedies Courage the Cowardly Dog and Camp Lazlo. Do you remember Ed and Daphne have a short date for a while? Yeah, I did play a clip of that in my last Scooby-Doo video. This is the end of the date, Daphne. Alright, so up top we have S tier. These are the 10 out of 10s, the iconic characters from the show. Basically, we'll see all the funniest and most lovable characters going up here. These are the perfect characters, and considering how great Ed, and Eddy's comedy is, we'll be seeing quite a few up here. Then we have A. These are awesome. Good, not great. Definitely top tier characters. Had a lot of funny moments, had a lot of good moments, but a few more flaws compared to the S tier masters. Then we have B. These characters, alright, they're decent, they're funny, they did their job, they served their main purpose, but I wouldn't go home saying they were my favorite character ever. C. We have the mid, the mediocre, the average, not all that great, but also not all that bad. Basically okay characters, and we might see some faces down here, like Naz. But then we have D. These are definitely weaker characters, below average, had something going for them. They were, fine, but kind of forgettable. Then we have E, basically very weak, poorly written. They could have amounted to something more, but just fell short. And bottom, rock bottom, we have F tier. Awful, the 0s out of 10s, the worst characters of the show, and tragically, we might see some faces down here. It's a shame the series was cut in Multiverses and Cartoon Network's first Smash Bros. Clone. Yeah, because the multiverse wasn't making money. So yeah, got all the characters down here, the Eds, and including the one-off characters. I don't think anybody even remembers Double D's pet spider. But yeah, got everyone who mattered on the show and all the characters you remembered, main and small. Alright, so let's start this tier list with the GOAT. Victor. Victor, going on to C. This is Rolf's pet goat. If you don't know, Rolf is the foreign kid. He has a farm in his backyard, and Victor is his wacky goat. The only thing I remember is Victor ate grass when the Eds had a lawn mowing business. Rolf's goat eats grass, Sarah! Yeah, Victor was like eating all the grass and became obese, and they had to roll it back to Rolf, or Double D would owe Rolf like turnips or something. Yeah, I wanted to have that goat pun. All I know is the quote, "Victor's gone mad," when he was like chasing and attacking the Eds. Yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna complain that the goat is on the middle tier, but yeah, moving on. Like, do you think the theory that they're in purgatory? I have heard that rumor. No, I do think the show is very much in reality. It's just from a kid's perspective. Sorry, I got my 500 waters here to stay hydrated because it is pretty hot today. Alright, so let's start with one of the Eds now. Let's do the first one, Ed. Gravy. Ed, yep, going on to S tier. I think you all knew he would be on here. Ed is pretty much the stupid one. He's the dumb, funny comic relief, a total cloud cuckoo lander whose mind is out there. Ed is the dumb one. He's the idiot. He's the one who screws up a lot. He's basically the muscle backing up all the Eds. I do have my top 3 episodes for each Ed, and one of the favorites I have regarding each character. So, my top 3 favorite episodes for Ed. I love when he becomes a monster. I watched Ed and Eddy when I was 4 or 5 years old. Yeah, I remember it on when it was getting new episodes around that age too. Like Ed is funny, like the blue tongue is confusing. Dan Antonucci did say he purposely gave them weird multicolored tongues because he likes having character flaws in his designs. Very peculiar, but I can see his point. It made them a lot more memorable and distinct that way. All the kids have like blue or orange tongues. It's very weird, but that's his style. So, I love the episode where Ed becomes a monster. Ed has an overactive imagination, and this is him completely unhinged. Basically, Ed wants to become a star in one of Eddy's attractions, where they give him a badass monster suit. For the longest time, we do the Jaws effect. We don't see what the monster Ed is, what it looks like. We only see like obscure, like brief glimpses, and it in shadows. Basically, Ed becomes a monster, and because of his crazy mindset, he believes he's literally is a monster, and he goes on a killing spree like a horror movie. Ed goes like insane, attacks the cul-de-sac children, and basically kind of eats them and takes them to be cocooned in his aliens cave. It is one of the best episodes of the series, and seeing the kids kind of get some comeuppance from the Eds for a change is pretty satisfying. Basically, Ed goes insane, he's attacking people, he's spraying them with chunky puffs and gluing them to his wall. It is a very insane episode. Yeah, Matt Hill voices Ed. He also voiced Spear in My Little Pony. I think he was one of the Wonderbolts that Rainbow Dash looked up to. And they pretty much unmask Ed, and he completely snaps back to normal, and the kids are left glued to their wall while the Eds go run away and actually hide. For a change, the Eds actually came out on top. My second favorite episode, Ed sleep eats. In one of the early season episodes, Ed is a sleepwalker, but instead of just walking, he goes around eating stuff. He breaks into all the neighborhood's houses and eats their food, and Ed is completely unconscious but gets into wacky adventures while Double D and Eddy try to basically help rescue him and stop him from stealing all the food, only to completely epic fail. It is actually one of the rare times where the Eds come out on top at the end because Double D and Eddy manage to sort of trap him. He's like trying to get back into his room, but he's so fat he can't even fit through the window anymore. And we got him right where we want him. And the Eds turn this into a scam. The next morning, after Ed took everyone's food, all the kids are completely starved, and Eddy, of course, makes a killing out of this because he sets up his food mart at Ed Mart. And basically, they're selling the kids back all the food Ed ate. Yeah, it's not stored in his room. He actually ate it. He has it like, he's like their refrigerator and they're pulling out all their non-digested food and selling it back to them. I love Chunky Puffs. Would you like some milk with that? Can't eat cereal without milk. Yeah, the Eds actually get out on top on that episode too. Really funny. And my third favorite Ed episode, when he has basically trauma from a nightmare. Ed has this horrific nightmare where his abusive mom punishes him, and in a bizarre twist, the mom is actually Johnny, and Ed has this deranged, insane fear of Johnny 2x4, the weird kid. Johnny's the kid who has the block of wood plank, and Ed imagined him as like his abusive mom and punishing him by throwing him in the canker pit. Hey, Cat, my fellow animal mascot. Hey, Monica the bear. Glad you made it. Also, Ironhide and Transformers Energon. Ooh, I'll have to listen for him there. Akira, because you brought MLP up, are you doing a tier list on it sometime in the future, Cat? Maybe. If you're talking about tier list episodes, probably not, because there's like over 200, but yeah. And he was in G.I. Joe Extreme, Matthew Metalhead Hurley. I remember that scene where we see the cankers scared me. Well, the cankers are pretty much sexual deviants and bullies, so yeah. They throw Ed in the canker pit, and throughout the episode, Ed has PTSD and melts down every time he sees Johnny, and what makes it hilarious is that Johnny has no clue what the heck is going on. Johnny is completely confused, and the Eds do not know what to make of it. They think they can help Ed by having him basically sit down and talk to Johnny. They bring Johnny in, and Ed is completely insane and driven by fear, completely irrational, and I love the weird psychotic breakdown he has. I love you, Mommy! Ah! Yeah, very weird. Also, he was Havoc, Alex Masters, and X-Men Evolution. Okay. And Ed was Raphael in the Next Mutation. Oh, poor Matt. That one was awful. But yeah, his weird nightmare about Johnny. It's also a very weird twist ending where at the end, none of it was actually Ed's episode. It was a nightmare Johnny had. Yeah, apparently Johnny had a nightmare of the Eds being weird around him. Kind of bizarre, but yeah. Also, I know I missed the SPD tier list, so here's my late response. I never understood why when Z moved into Sky's room, she removed only one boot while she kept the other one. Girls are weird, Anime Night. I kind of knew you loved Ed and Eddy because of the clips you use in your reviews. Yeah, I really love Ed and Eddy, and if you watch a lot of my reviews, I take some of their weird quotes and use it to comment on the episode or have just a random joke. It is a hilarious show, and yeah, it's not hard to picture that I'm a fan. I also have Courage episodes, and I used to have a lot of Nostalgia Critic clips in there too, because I was a fan of Doug Walker for the longest time. But yeah, Ed and Eddy, hilarious. Honorable mentions for Ed episodes. I will give the Repairman episode a mention too, because the Eds have this business venture where they're going around trying to fix things, and Ed is pretty much a moron who screws everything up and breaks everything. Ed is a lot better at destroying things than actually constructing. It is one of, low-key, one of the funniest episodes ever, The Repairman. They get a job as a repairman trying to fix things, only for Ed to hilariously screw up, break even more. They wreck Johnny's house and turn it into a makeshift sauna, and hilariously, Ed destroys everything, even though he was a towel rack. I've been a good towel rack, Eddy. 1 + 1 = 1 on a bun. Ed! I remember how there was a PC game that was inspired by the film Osmosis Jones about the Eds eating a bad jawbreaker. Well, why Ed called Daphne Blake a mermaid? Like, there's a Scooby-Doo episode that was unusable to American audiences. Okay, I did not know that. I know Ed and Daphne went out on a date, so Ed's got that Ed's charisma. Yeah, Ed dated Daphne Blake in one of the Cartoon Network bumpers. It is available on YouTube, and they do have the extended cut, which censored things out. Like, Ed keeps talking about Double D a lot and how great Double D is, and Daphne looks at her chest insecure. Yeah, that was pretty hilarious adult joke. I miss when we had that type of humor. But Ed, he's going on S tier. He's a lovable oaf, and Ed actually gets his character arc resolved in the movie, where Ed does something smart and helps knock out Eddie's brother, doing a smart move for once. And as you all know, the Eds get accepted. So Ed is, of course, going on S tier because he's just hilarious. He's funny, he's charming, lovable oaf, gets into the funniest hijinks, and honestly kind of sympathetic at times because Ed's family does kind of look down on him and he's not raised very well, but we love him for that. Ed is delightful, so we'll put him on S tier. Speaking of which, let's talk about your other favorite character, Baron O'Beef Dip, who we'll put on to A. Yeah, this is Ed's cool toy. It's actually a flamethrower. Ed was tricked into believing he was alive by Eddy in that scam where he tied a walkie-talkie onto random objects and pretended they were alive. Baron O'Beef Dip is pleased. We'll put him on A. Ed, Double D next. Okay, you want Double D. Double Dweeb. Ed with 2 Ds slash Double D, also going on to S tier. We all like Double D. Double D is pretty much the most normal one of the Eds. Double D is basically the loser nerd. He's outcasted because he's intelligent, he digs science, and he's not much of a social butterfly. Double D, basically kind of in line with the Eds. They're all outcast because the kids do not like them. Eddy is a troublemaker, Ed is stupid, Double D is basically a nerd, but he's the nicest one of the group because Double D tries to be the good guy, be the voice of reason among the Eds. However, because he basically stands by them, he's frequently punished alongside them. Double D is, I don't think anyone's gonna complain about this or have any counter argument. Double D is kind of the one kids related with the most because Double D wanted to fit in and have friends, but he was shy and not very social, and that made people like him. Double D is the smart one. However, even he has his screw-ups and follies, namely listening to Eddy and Ed's influences, which is why his scams go south. They said that the only time we heard his name as Ed and not Double D is from the first episode. Yeah, they call him Ed. Yeah, he's Ed with 2 Ds. He's the Double D Ed boy in the middle of Ed and Eddy's title. Yeah, Sam Vincent voices him, Crypto the Superdog, and this is actually one of Sam Vincent's star-making roles. If you don't know, Sam Vincent is a famous Canadian voice actor, and he's had, like, the most projects next to his cohorts. He's gone to a lot of things. He's on Littlest Pet Shop, My Little Pony, he's Shizao. Yeah, remember Shizao. And he's Crypto the Superdog, one of my favorite characters. Yeah, he played Stegs in Extreme Dinosaurs, Forge in X-Men Evolution. I don't remember Forge being in there. Film Skim in My Little Pony, and Lloyd Garmadon in Ninjago. Don't watch Ninjago. So, I think we all like Double D because he was pretty much the pure innocent among his trio. Eddy and Ed were much more devious. They're total troublemakers. They're the screw-ups, and Double D's tragically dragged along for the ride. Over the course of the series, we do start to realize Double D is having friendship drama with the other Eds, and it comes to a head in the movie where he finally has enough of Eddy's BS. And yeah, it does raise the question, why is Double D friends with the Eds? They make it very clear it's because he doesn't fit in with the other kids. He is an outcast, all the Eds are outcasts, and overall, they just kind of want friends, and Double D you actually feel sorry for because he's nice, but he unfortunately keeps listening to his friends who keep dragging him down. So I do have my top 3 Double D episodes written here. One of my favorites is the Sticky Notes episode. Shizao. I heard there was a pilot made for Disney's Shorty McShort Legends, but I thought it was an urban legend. No, Shizao was the hub show. The one where the weird twink boy turns into a girl superhero. I heard it was like a trans-inspired show, but it did not go well because kids were completely turned off and grossed out by that. Was the voice actor going through puberty in this show? Yes, they were. Jimmy's voice actor especially, like, listen to season 1 Jimmy and then listen to season 5 Jimmy. It was very clear the kid completely grew up. Some of the kids sounded the same all the way to the end. I think Eddy, Kevin, and Sarah mostly sound the same all the way to the end, while Double D and Jimmy, their voices very clearly changed. Also, Carl Schiff in Dead Rising. Like Ed have cancer. Yeah, we never find out what's under Double D's hat. I believe it's a bad scar. He has like a bald spot and there's like a scar there because Ed asks, does it hurt Double D? Yeah, we never see what's under Double D's hat, and Dan Antonucci is basically a big fat liar. He said it'd be revealed what was under his hat in the movie. Spoilers, it didn't happen, and it was all a fake out because he was really building up Eddie's brother. Double D, I love the Sticky Notes episode. One of my favorites, too, of Double D. Basically, we find out his parents communicate with their son by leaving sticky notes around the house, basically listing chores and errands for him to do. Eddy and Ed decide to troll Double D by leaving fake sticky notes to basically mess with Ed, and Ed completely falls for it hook, line, and sinker. He doesn't know that it's his friend screwing with him. He's doing like these weird errands and pissing off the kids. He gets hit by the hat of discipline, he gets assaulted by the cankers, and he's eventually decides he's snapped, he's done with dealing with the sticky notes, and he decides to move in with Eddy, and Eddy gets his comeuppance at the end where he's forced to tend to him and massage his feet at night. They should just legally change Ed's name to Double D. Yeah, because that's what they call him mostly. Hey, Ira, glad you made it. How about the fact that Double D was an extremely clean freak and loved to be organized? Yeah, that kind of goes in line with he's like a nerd. He's much more organized than Eddy and Ed. Eddy's just kind of lazy, but Ed is a total slob, which makes Ed and Double D's banter all the more hilarious. I also love the episode where they break reality. Double D decides to help the Eds become smarter and make money off of learning and science discoveries. It is technically, all three of them are the main stars, but I count this as a Double D episode because he's the one that kickstarts the plot and gets a lot of reaction time. This is the infamous episode where the Eds break their show's cartoon physics and alter reality. Like, they rip out Jimmy's outline, they saw portal holes in the ground, Ed can lift holes off the ground, they rip off Sarah's mouth. You know the one, all the crazy-ass cartoon antics. Rolf has 3 heads. Many dollars, Ed boys. Too much for couch potato Ed boys like yourself. A 3-headed Rolf. Yawn. Yeah, the hat of discipline is the hammer hat. My favorite is when Ed defeated the cankers with the measuring cup. Yeah, he whacks them with it and crams their heads together. They finally got a victory. Dan trolled us, lol. Yeah, he did. He lied and said they'd reveal what was under Double D's hat in the movie. Spoilers, he completely lied. It was basically a way to deceive you so you wouldn't realize Eddy's brother was going to be revealed in this movie. My favorite is when Eddy falls into the hole and continues to fall. Yeah, the playing with portals. Who ripped Sarah's mouth off? Eddy did, and then she bit him and he threw the mouth away. Basically, they broke reality, and through zero explanation, you have no idea what's going on, and at complete random, they snap back into the real world when a cloud they're flying on gets bursted by a pencil, literally bursting their bubble and snapping them back in the real world, where you have no clue what's going on. And I do love how all the Eds think it was real, and they try the cartoon physics again, only to piss off Sarah. And I love where Ed rips the hole out of the sewer pipe. He like pulls the whole sewage out of the ground by hand, and he carries off Double D and Eddy, who fell in it, while they get chased by Sarah. The end. Really weird episode, but one of my favorite Double D episodes for sure. Might make my top 10 Ed and Eddy episodes. And my third favorite, the last one we'll talk about, is I know some people hate this episode, but It's the one where Double D is tricked into believing he's dying. Double D gets all these medical textbooks and he reads one of the books and it sounds like he has the exact symptoms of this fatal disease. And Eddy and Ed, in a complete douchey way, basically gaslight Double D and troll him into thinking he's dying. And it turns out they were smoking weed the whole time in the wall breaking episode. Yeah, that was a weird one. Did you watch Teen Titans 2003 or not? Yes, I watched it. It did rerun on Cartoon Network briefly, but they stopped doing that. I thought that was cotton candy. That's what Ed called it. That's my favorite Double D episode too. Yeah, basically Double D is gaslit and tricked into thinking he's dying, and basically Ed and Eddy are just trying to get rid of him because he's annoying them while they're trolling Kevin. In the same episode, the B plot, Kevin has been totally grounded. We don't know why. Fans theorize it's because he revealed Eddy's middle name and it's his comeuppance. Yeah, Eddy's getting some payback on him and trolling him, and he's trying to make Double D go away, and basically they decide to troll Double D too. They douche in the most douche way possible, trick Double D into believing he's dying, and Double D basically has a quite depressing breakdown. He thinks he's gonna die, and he's writing his will and giving his stuff all away, and in a rare moment where the cul-de-sac kids are nice to him, they actually reveal that no, he's being trolled. Like, Naz rips off the kick me sign on him, and Double D believed he was dying, and the kids tell Double D that they actually feel sorry for him, which is kind of shocking because the kids treat the Eds like crap, but now you kind of figure it's usually Ed and Eddy who are the troublemakers. Ah, Kat, you're playing on my nostalgia now. Hey, Kat, glad I can make it. Hey, Christopher, we're on Double D right now, talking about my last favorite episode. So, Double D finally snaps at the Eds and gets probably the most funniest, satisfying revenge at the end of the episode. Kevin gets let out for good behavior and he tries to get revenge on Eddy and Ed, who are trolling him and basically kind of ruining his life all episode. And Kevin and Double D team up, and he drops the spare key to Eddy's house when they try hiding from him there. And I love the funny gag where Eddy and Ed are running around in a circle and being cheerful and laughing at Kevin, only for Kevin to randomly appear laughing in the circle with them, and he beats up Eddy and Ed in the most well-deserved punishment ever. It is very satisfying and a hilarious ending, and Double D actually comes out on top and actually got his happy ending in the end. I know some people found it very cruel because it is kind of out of character for Eddy and Ed to trick Double D into thinking he's dying, but considering Double D got his payback and it was actually hilarious by the end, I did really like it. It is my third favorite Double D episode. Honorable mention, we'll have one for Double D, the Valentine's Day episode. In this one, the Valentine's Day episode is one of the better holiday specials of Ed and Eddy. Basically, Maeve gets hit by Cupid's arrow and falls in love with Double D, and Double D actually reciprocates May Kanker's feelings. Yeah, he and this third Kanker actually have a nice touching romance, and all the kids are completely weirded out by it, where wacky holiday rom-com hijinks ensue. Surprised that Kevin's parents didn't see the brick wall around their house? Well, it's implied Kevin doesn't have a mom, he has a dad who's at work at the Jawbreaker factory. Yeah, there's apparently a fan theory that Kevin has a dad and he's a single dad. They're just the dad and Kevin, basically, and we don't see the mom ever heard or mentioned in his side of the story. Are my three waifus of the Kanker sisters on here? Yeah, they're all here, and they get separate entries. They're not united this time. I don't know why you like the Kankers. They're kind of gross and mean. Did Kevin's mom die? That is a theory. I think they're just kind of divorced because they don't go into it, but Kevin makes zero mention of his mom in the entire series, so it's believed that Kevin has a single dad raising him. The dad works at the Jawbreaker factory, and Kevin is pretty much treated with respect by his dad, and that's why he's got all the sports gear and manly attitude. My favorite moment is how Rolf fought the Cupids and used the mop water to fix everything. Yeah, that was, Antonucci said that was kind of a symbolic way of the gross reality can defeat this weird love in the air, all the fantasy moments. Pretty clever, honestly. Ed and May are broken out of the love spell thanks to Rolf going around spraying people with gross janitor water, and the Cupids are completely defeated and ousted. Very bizarre that Sarah and Jimmy are the Cupids, which, is it actually them, or like weird angel pixies in the form of them? Never explained. It is a weird show. Marie is the only decent looking canker. Yeah, you're talking about the punk girl one? Yeah. I mean, have you seen the Rule 34 of them? Enough said. Maybe live in the Derry, Maine, because we barely see the parents. The Canker sisters feel like better than Chloe and Lila. Well, that's because they're actually funny and they do get comeuppance. So, they're broken under the love spell. However, in a twist ending, we see Double D has held on to the card he gave May and is actually touched by it, implying he does actually have feelings for May. May is the blonde canker. Basically, she had a horrible Valentine's Day. He showed sympathy for her, and it's implied that there may be a future for them on the horizon, but we never see that because the movie gave the Eds a happier ending. But yeah, Double D, he's gone on S tier. He's one of the best characters in the series, and people, of course, like him because he's the most sympathetic of the Eds. Really glad he finally got his happy ending, and one of the most satisfying moments is when he finally stands up to Eddy in the movie. He finally has enough, and it finally answers the question, why are Double D and Eddy friends when they're complete polar opposites, and Eddy is a complete douchebag of a friend? Ed finally snaps at him, tells him off, and they actually rebuild their friendship when Eddy fesses up and admits that he's a screw-up. It is a satisfying end to Ed's character arc because Eddy finally apologizes and admits that everything bad that happens to them is his fault. And Ed actually forgives him at the end, like the gotcha moment, and we are friends once more. All the Eds are united by the end, so we'll put Double D on S tier because everyone loves him. And it's not hard to see why, considering he's the only Ed with any good in him. I think I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna watch a playlist of your videos. Got multiple playlists, Toon Lover. I tried to use the lemon juice on my eyes and I nearly went blind, but I did see little flying fairies. Ow, ouch, Anime Night. Plus, I highly recommend Sarcastic Chorus on his take on the Canker Sisters. Great video. Yeah, they're pretty much bullies who use their love to abuse the Eds. To think that Double D first met Ed and Eddy with his first scan, it's my bottomless Ed scam. Yeah, Double D is pretty much the new character on the block. They do show how the Eds first met. Ed actually moved into town, his parents got the new house under construction, and Eddy basically scammed him with his circus freak show with baby Ed. Then they knocked him out and he didn't remember anything, and I guess they relived the lives all over again. Yeah, I'll put Double D on S tier. Let's talk about Mr. Yum Yum. Going on to F. Screw this bunny. This is Jimmy's pet rabbit, and all he does is die, basically. Ed used him in a satanic sacrifice to summon Evil Tim and their curse. Evil Tim has beckoned us, and he, like, rips the rabbit with his mouth. And all this bunny does is get destroyed in every episode, so yeah. Also, let's do Jim got a haircut. Jim, we'll put him on E. He had a nice character, and basically is a weird cactus. Cacti have feelings too. Yeah, I'll put him on E. And the chicken! Yeah, I'll put the chicken on F. Barely did anything. Ed has a weird obsession with chickens and it went nowhere. And we'll do Rolf's cow, who's gone on to D because it had one funny moment where it fell on top of Rolf. Mama! A bandage for Rolf! Plank is more of a character than Mr. Yum Yum. What about Bobo? Was that a giant clam? Double D's pet spider. We're also going to put this on E. Does anybody even remember Double D had a pet spider? This thing, like, appeared in 3 episodes, both in the early seasons, and I completely forgot Double D had a pet spider. We see his ants more than this thing. We'll put it on E because it's very forgettable. And Rolf's pig, Wilbur. We'll also put on to C because Wilbur has a lot more episodes. He looked nice in the monkey suit Ed gave him in. And Wilbur actually has an iconic scene in the movie where basically Wilbur tires of Rolf's abuse of him and actually beats the hell out of Rolf and runs away. So the pig definitely won a lot more points compared to the other farm animals. Like, did CN always go dark? Not always. Courage the Cowardly Dog definitely went dark, and I would say they're Toonami shows where they're more dark content, but the Eds had some dark moments as, like, fridge horror when you really think about it. You mentioned the chickens. What about the magazine of baby chicks? Oh yeah, Ed had this magazine called Chicks Deluxe, and when they looked at it, they were expecting a hot chicks like a porno, but Ed has weird porn of chickens. He has, like, them hatching out of an egg, and yeah, very weird. Ed is very in love with chickens. Just hearing the bunny episode makes me sad. I'm very sensitive with something like that. The bunny episode, you talking about the curse episode where Ed rips apart Mr. Yum Yum, or the one where the bunnies keep mating and reproducing? I myself used to have a pet tarantula and even a scorpion too back when I was growing up. Yeah, those are pretty cool pets. So pretty much a lot of the minor animal or item characters are F or C tier because they're not really characters unless you're Plank. Yeah, that's kind of thing. But we'll talk about one last one. Jib! Jib is throwing up. Jib going on to our first B tier. Jib is Ed's imaginary friend. He had one episode, and basically we're led to believe that Ed is talking to himself, having this imaginary friend, goofing off, ruining Eddy's scams. And in a dark twist ending, it turns out Jib was 100% real. Yep, the imaginary friend was real. He was actually there, he was actually ruining Eddy's plans, and when they build an invisible trap to catch Jib, Jib beats up Eddy, like brutally beats him, throws him around the playground, hits him, turns him into a basketball, and shoots him into a house. Yeah, the first one. Remember in the run for your Ed where all the Wolf's animals went insane, then they sensed bad things. Yeah, they sensed the cankers were running afoul across the neighborhood. Like Ed Stan from JoJo. About on par with the imaginary friend from Powerpuff Girls episodes. Yeah, they did a lot of these where there's an invisible friend and we're supposed to believe it's imaginary, and spoilers, the imaginary friend was 100% real, and I think the Eds actually paved the way for Foster's home for imaginary friends thanks to this. Jib beats up Eddy, and then tragically Jib leaves. He takes a bus. Here, take this with ya, and don't forget these, Jib. Miss you like a hernia. Yeah, Eddy actually wins at the end because he gets rid of Jib, and Jib said his work here was done, and Jib takes a bus going on to the next town to party with the next group of kids he meets. I don't know. But, yeah, I've read that one. Jib, pretty funny. He beats up Eddy, and it's very well-deserved and very funny, too. So we'll put him on B. Wished he got more episodes. But alright, we got now all the main characters. So I guess we should talk about our last main Ed, Eddy. Eddy, the greedy, cowardly troublemaker, the brains behind the operation, the Mo to Double D and Ed's Larry and Curly. Eddy, we will put onto A. So Eddy comes very close to S tier. However, the 5th season and the movie really pushed his douchey side. Eddy is actually pretty funny. He's a jerk, but he's a funny jerk. Eddy is the true troublemaker among the Eds. He's a smart mouth. He's a lazy bum. He's a jerk. He's trying to scam the kids out of his money. However, in the movie, we find out why he is the way he is. Don't forget Cockroach Eddy. Yeah, y'all. I didn't forget Eddy. Okay, so I completely understand if some people hate Eddy because, yeah, he is a dick, and he's the reason why the other two Eds suffer a lot. Eddy is pretty much the bad influence on his friends, but this is because Eddy has had a dark and troubled past. If you don't know, major spoilers for the movie, Eddy is actually a victim of his idiot bully brother's abuse. Eddy's brother used to be the head honcho around the cul-de-sac. He was actually the king bully. Eddy treats him like he was the greatest godlike being ever. However, Eddy's older brother was nothing more than a douche. He was a bully. He forced the kids to respect him. He was the big man on campus because he was a grade A jerk, and Eddy has been trying to mimic his idiot bully brother's persona. Eddy's entire jerky side is an act. It's all an act. It's an attempt to be like his brother. However, he doesn't have the strength or charisma his older brother had. He is much more an annoyance, and it's why they treat Eddy more like a douche, because everyone actually hated Eddy's brother. He was feared by the cul-de-sac, not respected. A better jerk than Velma? Yeah, way better, because 1, Eddy actually suffers comeuppance, and 2, he actually has funny lines. Peach Creek YouTube channel highly recommends checking out. Shows the Ed's boys as adults. I've seen fan art of them as adults. It is a bit better than the everyone's old in the cul-de-sac future episode, because we actually get to see them when they were in their prime. Also, his actor played Berserker Ray Crisp in X-Men Evolution, Brad Red Museum in The X-Files, ooh, I have to rewatch that one again, and Sean Ashmore in The Tale of the Water Demons. Yeah, I mentioned that. Eddy's actor was actually in Are You Afraid of the Dark? He's, ironically, a bully brother in that too, who's also a greedy jerk but changes his ways. Also, Teddy in My Little Pony. Not one I've seen. I can't sleep, Eddy. I keep thinking, how can my feet smell if they don't have a nose? Ed? Who? Hit the road! Ed is a more likable jerk character than Velma. Yeah, way likable. Something hit me about the Eds. Do they ever get an allowance, since they always try to get cash? Yeah, Eddy does not get an allowance. The other two do. They basically have to do chores, but Eddy's more of a lazy slacker who feels entitled to money. Eddy's pretty much the con artist of the group. He scams. He's the one trying to get money, trying to take the easy route for quick cash. His business ventures are pretty much all fake scams, barely thought out, or usually, if they are successful, he or Ed ruin them. So, I do have my top 3 favorite Eddy episodes. Yes, I was actually able to find some. So, Eddy is basically acting like a jerk because his idiot bully brother kind of forced him to be like him, and Eddy's trying to copy his brother's style, thinking it will make him cool, but is completely ignorant to the fact that everybody hated his brother, and Eddy actually gets beaten up, abused, and suffers comeuppance for his attitude, because Eddy does not have the muscle his brother had. His brother was a lot more intimidating, while Eddy's more of a boisterous weakling. He's a Napoleon, he's the short one, he's the pipsqueak, nobody takes him seriously, and Eddy's kind of the one that's outcasted the most. However, Eddy is a likable jerk character because he does have some loyalty to the two Eds. They are his best friends, and he does occasionally come through for them. And it helps that Eddy actually has funny moments. Namely, him fighting with Kevin is a lot more justified because Kevin's also a bully, but that's what made Eddy very funny. Sad that his voice actor is retired. Yeah, I know, he's not that old yet either, but yeah, apparently he gave up acting. Also, Eddy almost eats that giant jawbreaker like that is impossible to eat when it's the size of a bowling ball. Yeah, they made jawbreakers very huge because they wanted to make it look so good. When Eddy's brother's more of a jerk than Chloe from Miraculous, yeah, Eddy's brother is basically a full-on domestic abuser. He abused Eddy and basically beaten Eddy so down that it's why he has an ego, because he's desperately trying to prove himself, trying to prove he's worth something and can be a somebody like his douche older brother. So, like I said, have my top 3 favorite Eddy episodes here. Number 1, the treasure map episode. So, I like the episode where they finally break into Eddy's brother's room. We actually get a lot more character implied, and hints about Eddy's brother and his true nature are foreshadowed throughout the show. They break into his brother's room and accidentally find a treasure map. Yeah, a treasure map. They find a treasure map hidden in a trophy, and Eddy thinks it'll lead to his brother's, like, hidden bank, his stash, his money, all the savings he earned and hid from his parents, and basically they try to resolve this treasure map and uncover where it is, only to stumble upon it thanks to Ed, and it's underneath the Cankers trailer. Eddy standing up for Double D at the end of Fistful of Ed was one of the best moments of the series. Yeah, I do agree, that was pretty satisfying. My favorite is when Eddy went insane because all the kids were sick. Yeah, they had the chicken pox and there was a pandemic. That was a pretty funny episode. So Eddy, basically, they crack this treasure map open, and Eddy keeps praising his brother throughout this episode. My brother's a whiz at booby traps. My brother's a whiz at this and that and this and that. And yeah, he keeps hyping up his brother, and they try to use the treasure map. They find the treasure underneath the Kanker's trailer. It's in the trailer park, and after some wacky hijinks, of course, they get caught by the Kankers because they're stupid, and there was no treasure. It was all a complete trick, and foreshadowing that Eddy's brother was not such a nice guy because he led him right to the Kanker pit. And basically, it's foreshadowing that Eddy's brother is a total douche because he left a map that landed them in trouble. They get cornered by the Kankers, but Double D and Ed are able to pay their way out, but Eddy doesn't get an allowance, and he gets trapped and punished and raped by the Kankers. How do you even eat jawbreakers? They're impossible to eat when they're so big, and I'm pretty sure it can destroy your teeth or jaw just based on the name. Or the size. Basically, jawbreakers, you're supposed to lick. They're supposed to melt in your mouth. You're not supposed to swallow them whole or bite into them, hence the term jawbreakers. They're kind of like ice cream in a way. You're supposed to lick them and they melt in your mouth very slowly. Basically, the kids always eat them and they're letting them sit there in their mouths until they melt away. How about when Ed lost his shiz and when he had a pebble in his shoe? I mean, to be fair, I'd be angry too. Yeah, that was a pretty funny one. Like, why in the Kanker sisters live in the trailer? Because the Kanker sisters are kind of poor. They're kind of trailer trash girls. They live with a mom who slept around, and all the Kankers are sisters, and because they don't look alike, it's a subtle adult joke that their mom slept with multiple different men, and that's why all the Kanker sisters do not look anything alike. I know everybody loved the pandemic episode, but for me, my second favorite Eddy episode, the one where they go up. Yeah, remember that one? They go up. Nothing but up. They're forming a business venture that will take them up to the top. This was a very bizarre Ed and Eddy episode, but one of the funnest ones where Eddy opens up a legit business. They have an actual office. They actually recruit some of the kids, and they're building a business to take them up. Yeah, nothing specified, all the way up. I really like that one. Eddy is kind of the douche CEO of the company, and Eddy gets a lot of moments where he's cool and very funny, a lot of puns about up, and basically all the kids are playing Office. It is one of the more creative episodes, and actually kind of humanize the kids a lot more because they're playing Office, they're playing a game, they're playing this fake simulation type of game where they're going up, and everything must go up, and we don't really know what the company actually does. Also, I'm terrified of jawbreakers because they'll break your jaws. Sorry, reading some comments. What about the fact that the Ed figured out the map while Double D couldn't figure it out? Yeah, Double D's supposed to be the smart one. You're messing with our group dynamic. But Ed solves it because Eddy is a brother to Eddy's brother, and Eddy's brother is a brother to Eddy's brother. I am. I did find the brother episode was more interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that one was kind of more interesting. The one where they're trying to make a movie and it's kind of a found footage Ed and Eddy episode. That one was pretty fun. I put that one on my honorable mentions where they made a found footage where Eddy's trying to prove that he's older and cool, that he's just a grown-up as his brother is, and they get into wacky hijinks, and we get a cool found footage type of Ed and Eddy episode, which was very creative. It reminded me of the Scooby-Doo project, where they're making a movie with a handheld camera and getting into wacky hijinks, and it completely ends in failure because all their attempts to look cool and simulate Eddy's coolness completely backfire. Yeah, Chloe's mom definitely cheated on her husband. Highly recommend Ed and Eddy's Misadventures video game. Great underrated game. I know what you're talking about. I love the found footage episode. The part where Ed ate the camera was hilarious. Yeah, we actually see it. Dive, dive, dive! Ed, did you eat the camera? And we actually see Double D put his hand down his throat and the inside of Ed. Like why the female bully mother lived to cheat on another man. Some women are terrible people, Akira. So, I do like the going up episode too, and basically it ends with the Eds getting stranded on the moon. That completely, their business venture ends in failure. All their employees quit because Eddy's not actually paying them, and they realize that, yeah, they've just been playing a game. And Ed built this huge-ass elevator that took them all the way up into space, and the Eds get stranded on the moon because they accidentally break their elevator, get stuck up there. Very weird and bizarre ending, but super funny, and another cartoon physics broken type of ending. And my last favorite Eddy episode, easily the race to the candy store. That one, it's a classic. This one, technically all three of the Eds have focus, but it is one of the funnest episodes in the series. Basically, the candy store has a customer appreciation day where they're giving out candy for free, and the Eds finally have a shot at getting jawbreakers because they don't have to pay anything. However, the store closes in 10 minutes, meaning it's a race to the finish, and the Eds get into a wacky race across the entire cul-de-sac, accidentally running afoul and pissing off all the cul-de-sac kids, and running into wacky obstacles along the way, trying to make it to the candy store on time to get a free jawbreaker. My sister thinks Ed is kind of adorable. I guess I can see why. He's jovial in a sweet way. Yeah, he's likable. He's a lovable oaf, as they would call it. Also, how Rolf chased the Eds because of the chickens. Yeah, they stole Rolf's chickens multiple times and simulated them as cardboard cutouts of the cul-de-sac kids, and Rolf was not very amused because they took his farm animals. Anyways, my last favorite Eddy episode, easily the race episode, because this one actually spotlights Eddy's dickishness and how he's not loyal as a friend. Eddy gets his comeuppance all throughout this episode. He very quickly abandons Double D and Ed every chance he gets, saves himself, tries to put himself ahead of them, uses Ed to catapult himself over a construction site only to epic fail. Very funny stuff. It shocked me that Eddy would betray his friends for jawbreakers. I mean, you can buy jawbreakers, but you can't replace your friends. Yeah, this one spotlights that Eddy pretty much does deserve all the comeuppance. It does highlight that Eddy is at fault for a lot of the bad stuff that happens to him, and I think the race episode especially highlights that, where Eddy is quickly throwing his friends aside just for candy, and it points out that Eddy is completely in the wrong, and he gets his well-deserved comeuppance all throughout. I love Kevin drops a piano on him for wrecking his bike. That was funny. Fusion Fall was a good PC game. Ed Boy's in that game as well. Haven't played that. So yeah, Eddy's kind of a jerk to his friends. He, like, betrays Double D. They actually make it, and I love the construction site scene where Ed and Eddy get ran over by a steamroller and get flattened, and they still get up for more. Eddy abandons his friends at every turn. The Cankers get Double D. He ditches him. He uses Ed as a human shield and catapults himself only to fail and land into the construction site. He bandages friends when they need his help, and eventually even God himself comes in and doesn't want the Eds to get jawbreakers. Like, a storm comes out of nowhere, and Ed actually toughens up. My friend Blacksmith Orange uses this scene. You see, Eddy, we can accomplish anything if we work together as a team. Yeah, the Eds finally get ahead and look like they're gonna make it, but then out of nowhere, a chicken drive comes. Rolf happens to have 1,000,000 chickens who he's driving like cattle across town, but yeah. My favorite is when Ed became smart and used his friends to fight the storm. Yeah, that was a badass Ed moment. Unfortunately, it couldn't last. Ed actually toughens up and becomes badass and smartly gets them across the street past the storm. However, chickens come out of nowhere, and Ed, being the lovable idiot he is, dives right in, dragging his friends with him. Ed gets absorbed by the chicken storm, and Eddy manages to claw his way out, and he has to make a choice, a telltale choice, choosing between the jawbreaker or saving Double D. Double D is actually suffering and getting pecked to death by all these chickens. Eddy, help me! And Eddy's contemplating for a second, and in a huge dick move, he chooses the jawbreakers, only for him to get his comeuppance. They made it too late, the store closes, and he missed his chance because he took too long, which totally deserved. Eddy was an ass all episode. Let's not forget that the episode started with a tour of the future. Yeah, they had this actually cool scam. They had like a high-tech house in the future, and Eddy quickly ditched his friends and they cleaned up, and love how Ed brushes it under his driveway. Yeah, he doesn't even hide it. He like flips his driveway over their house of the future. Hardly noticeable, Ed. So Eddy doesn't get his jawbreaker. He only gets his comeuppance, and Ed actually saved Double D. They make it out of the chicken storm, and Double D was saved by Ed in his pocket. Cartoon physics, he somehow fits in that coat, but yeah. And they actually call him out on what a bad friend he is, and we see Johnny actually made it inside the store because Johnny actually was left behind in the high-tech house, had TVs strapped to his feet, and he somehow beat the Eds, and Johnny is rightfully a dick to Eddy and makes fun of him. Yep, Johnny got jawbreakers, but the Ed boys didn't, and Eddy gets his well-deserved comeuppance at the end. Honestly, the race episode, one of my favorite episodes, and I do count it as an Eddy episode because it is kind of spotlighting him and his terrible, terrible treatment of his friends. We need to have a female on that tier list next. Okay, we'll get to one of the girls next. But yeah, honorable mention for Eddy, we do have one, the Christmas episode. If you don't remember the Christmas special, Eddy is pissed off that all his parents get him are clothes. A dickie? They still make these things? Yeah, Eddy is pissed off because he thinks he deserves better presents. He wants toys, he wants merch, he wants things he can brag about and actually have fun with. He hates that he gets clothes for Christmas, which partially justified there since I understand wanting great presents. However, Eddy goes around basically acting like an entitled jerk, trying to leech off of the other kids and get one of their presents. This one gets an honorable mention because basically Eddy's going around and we see how all the neighborhood kids and the other Eds celebrate their Christmases, and Eddy actually does get rightfully punished because, yeah, he's basically trying to steal a present from someone else and be quote-unquote adopted into their family or spend the holidays with them. I do like this Eddy episode because of the ending where after getting rejected by everyone and failing every turn he got, basically Eddy finds this lone Christmas tree and he realizes that he has a Christmas light to replace the burnt light on this tree. Let's not forget how they ended a Birth of Jesus parody. Yeah, they did. The Cankers are the three wise men. Eddy manages to actually do a gesture of kindness. He fixes this destroyed, burnt-out bulb on this abandoned Christmas tree with the light that Ed left in his pocket, and it was actually a gesture of goodwill. It actually revives the tree and brings the Christmas spirit, and Santa actually shows up and drops presents for everyone, including Eddy. Eddy finally did something good, and then he turns to the dark side again and steals everyone's presents. Yeah, this episode actually does highlight that Eddy completely deserved all the bad stuff he got because he's acting like an entitled brat on Christmas, and at the end he hilariously didn't change his ways. He steals the presents and runs away to Rolf's barn to open them. The other two Eds try to stop them. However, there was a B-plot where the Canker sisters became the three wise men. They get gifts for the Eds and corner them in the barn, and they give the Ed boys their ironic rape. The Eds are like fighting over the presents, and during the scuffle, they accidentally launch them back out, and the kids manage to get their gifts back. While Eddy and his friends get raped by the Cankers, which sucks for Double D and Ed because they tried being the good guys all episode. It's like, dang, Ed and Double D did nothing wrong in this episode, but Eddy pretty much deserved it. They get raped by the Cankers on Christmas, while the cul-de-sac kids cheer them on with Christmas carols. Yeah, they parodied the birth of Jesus. It was a very weird ending, but yeah. They show up as the three wise men, give the Eds gifts, and forcefully rape them again, where Eddy gets his comeuppance. So the movie did explain that Eddy actually is faking his jerk persona. Eddy's trying to be like his big brother, and he finally confesses in the movie that he made it all up. It was all a lie. He tried to be like his big bro, only to realize that it failed, and Eddy's brother is nothing but a douchebag abuser, and Eddy finally admits that he was bad for acting this way, and basically basically has a heel face turn. He turns good. Eddy is redeemed at the end and finally accepted by the cul-de-sac kids after fessing up to his faults and vowing to change. Very satisfying ending to Eddy's character arc. However, I'm putting him on A because I do not like how he is in Season 5. For those who don't know, Season 5 is the school season. The cul-de-sac kids go back to school, and they ramped up Eddy's dickishness. Eddy is a lot more unlikable in the school season. He is a full-blown ass without any redeeming qualities. Some of the holiday specials did kind of fix this, and the movie finally gave him a proper ending to his character arc. But yeah, Season 5, Eddy's a douchebag, and you kind of question why he's friends with Double D and Ed at this point, because he once again throws them under the bus all the time, not once doing anything nice for them, and pretty much acting like he's a school bully. So Season 5 dropped him down to A. But yeah, Eddy's going on to A, because he is awesome, but Season 5, don't like him in that one. Alright, so you want a girl on this list, Akira? Let's do Naz, the girl next door. Naz, going on to B. Put her above Jib at least. Naz is the cute girl, the girl next door. She's the hot chick of the cul-de-sac. All the guys have a crush on her, except for Rolf and possibly Jimmy. I think Jimmy might be into Sarah, but yeah, Naz is pretty much the girl next door. The problem with Naz is she is the least developed character of the cul-de-sac. She's the nice girl, she's the popular girl, she's a cheerleader at the school. Naz, unfortunately, did not get as much focus as the other kids. She's basically the girl all the Eds have a crush on, who's out of their league. She hangs out with Kevin. She gets some character in the movie, and unfortunately her spotlight episode's not all that great. Another waifu material. Really, Christopher? I think Power Girl is much better. So, Naz has been pretty much the apple of their eye. They all love her. They all want to be with her. However, she pretty much hangs out with the other kids because Naz is the cool girl while the Eds are the losers. So, Naz has one of the worst episodes in the series, the babysitter episode, where Naz is hired to babysit Eddy, and Eddy never puts two and two together and realizes that she's babysitting him. She's actually there because her parents paid her to be there. Eddy thinks it's a date, and the other Eds try and get Eddy to have a romantic evening with her, not realizing that she's there just to watch over him. And Naz is a really terrible babysitter because what does she do? She throws a party in someone else's house and invites half the neighborhood over at Eddy's place, while Eddy is grounded in his room while all his best friends and his babysitter, who's the same age as him, is partying in his house. Yeah, I agree. Power Girl has more range than Naz. Yeah. Tabitha St. Germain voiced her. She had 3 voice actresses over the course of the series, and you could barely tell because Naz was barely a character. So, I have one favorite episode for each of the cul-de-sac kids. If I had to pick a good episode for Naz, it would be the prom episode. I do like her on the prom episode. The Eds go to the school dance, and Naz actually wants to dance with any of the boys, but Kevin is a total wussy boy, so she actually dances with Double D. Yeah, Double D actually had a W at the dance. Double D gets to dance with Naz, and she's actually nice to the Eds for a change, and is the real life of the party. So if I had to pick a favorite Naz episode, easily the prom one. That one was great. It's one of the best school episodes, and Double D was a total chick magnet at the prom. So yeah, Naz, we'll put her on B. She gets a lot more to do in the movie, where basically she tries to hook up with Kevin. However, Kevin wants to screw his bike. Kevin is more obsessed with his bike than protecting her, and pretty much she completely gives up on dating Kevin in this movie, which he completely deserved because Kevin is obsessed with this stupid-ass bike to the point of trying to save the bike over her. My favorite moment in the babysitter episode, where Double D had Ed strip Eddy when he refused to take a bath. Skip to my loo, my darling. Yeah, I love that. I do like parts of the babysitter episode, but the ending kind of a dick move. Her first actress played Eel on Help, I'm a Fish. Andrea Sussman in Crypto the Superdog. Oh, that's Tabitha St. Germain. And Rarity and Princess Luna, Nightmare Moon on MLP. Yeah, I know Tabitha St. Germain. So, One of the good things about Naz, though, is what got her higher is, in the movie, she hooks up with Eddy. At the end, she decides she's done with Kevin. All the kids see how abusive Eddy's brother is and actually feel sorry for the Eds. Eddy apologizes for being a douche, and it actually gets him a kiss from Naz, meaning that they'll probably hook up in the future. So, very glad that Eddy got his well-deserved kiss at the end, and Naz and Eddy might have become a couple in the ending, so we'll put her on B. But you know who's not going on high? Sarah. Oh, Sarah. Going on to F. Does anybody like Sarah? Sarah is awful. Sarah is Ed's baby sister, but she's an obnoxiously anger-prone, spoiled brat. Sarah is basically a spoiled, rotten brat who is pretty much favored by her parents. Her parents love her more than Ed, to the point of giving her everything, giving her all the best toys, giving her love and attention, while writing off Ed as a complete loser. And Sarah is a complete brat. She's abusive towards Ed, abusive towards all the Eds, and kind of a bully. She's anger-prone, she's psychotic, and has unnatural superhuman strength because she can lift up cars and beat the Eds up. Yeah, like Bo Duke and Sean William Scott and Johnny Knoxville, Dukes of Hazzard, wanting to screw his car. Yeah, that was... Kevin had an obsession with his bike like the Duke brothers. A great moment was Naz when, after Rolf fired Ed and Eddy held a protest, navigate out intrigued description on the crossing the line. Yeah, she mastered that weird rule book. The only good thing I know about her is her voice actress went on to voice the first Pinky from MLP Gen 3. I did not watch Gen 3, I've only seen Gen 4. Sarah, she sucks, and it sucks because she's voiced by Janice Jod, who's a great voice actress. She's dubbed a lot of anime. She played Felicia, one of my favorite characters at one point, so that's very shocking to see her here. Basically, she's a bully. She's a bully towards Ed. She's a troublemaker. Sarah always gets her way, and she does get her comeuppance from time to time, but not as often as Kevin or Eddy do. That's... Okay, we're talking about Janice Jod. Okay. Yeah, really like Janice Jod as a voice actress, but this might easily be one of her most hated characters. Does anyone like Sarah? I think even Kevin and the Kankers have more defenders than Sarah. Sarah is pretty much an irrational, hate-filled bully. She hates her idiot brother, like really, really hates Ed for no reason. Gets him into trouble, gets to do a lot of antics, and basically she's the secondary bully after Kevin. Sarah hates the Eds with a bleeding passion. However, if you had to really twist my tail and say what was Sarah's best episode, I would say the ones where the Eds are the babysitters for her. Ed is getting paid to watch his baby sister, but his baby sister is basically walking all over him, taking over the house, and forcing Ed to play as a part of her kingdom. Sarah is the princess of her house while the parents are away, and Ed is babysitting, and Double D and Eddy get roped into helping him. That is easily my favorite Sarah episode because Sarah gets her comeuppance at the end, basically. Sarah acts like a spoiled brat, is messing up the house, and all three of the Eds try to basically appease her. For half the episode, they're obeying her. Eddy becomes the fool. Double D is serving her. They're serving Jimmy. She's acting like queen of the house, and eventually she completely goes nuts and off the rails, laughing at the Eds' misfortune, and Eddy gets pinned by a cactus. Really harsh. Her actress also played Tina in G.I. Joe Extreme. Okay. I know Janice Jod was Felicia on the Darkstalkers OVA, so she has played characters I like. So, Sarah goes nuts and causes a mess, and we finally get some comeuppance where Eddy and Ed actually hatch a plan. Yeah, Eddy actually comes up with a brilliant scheme where basically Eddy pretends he's the king to lure her out, and she tries to fight him, only for them to lock Sarah up in a cage where she belongs. Yeah, in a rare episode, Sarah actually loses at the end of this episode. They lock her up in a crib. You're a spoiled brat. And they save the day, they scare away Jimmy, and they clean up Ed's house by making a fake drawing. Your mom will never tell the difference. My favorite Sarah episode is the one where she's sick and Jimmy and Ed kind of compete to see who can take care of her better. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The one where they're basically her servant. Ed and Jimmy compete with each other. I didn't like that episode because Sarah kind of wins in the end. She gets Double D sick on purpose, like an ungrateful bitch. And then when Ed actually hugs her, she beats him up. Yeah, Sarah winning on top, never a favorite. So, Sarah also gets her comeuppance in the movie where she actually gets beaten up and abused by the Kanker sisters. Dan Antonucci finally heard the cries from fans about how Sarah keeps getting away with her bitch behavior, and she gets basically humiliated and beat up and wet-willied by the Kanker sisters. Very satisfying. She's made a slave, and Sarah actually makes a smart move and escapes, and she and her brother resolve their differences. Her heel turn is kind of the most forced because she was barely present while all the other kids got character arcs. Also, gotta give major props to the voice actors and actresses for voicing these characters over the years. All I know is I hope they got paid well. You're getting paid? Yeah, but Sarah's going into F because she is an unlikable bitch, and the finale did not make me change my tune on her. Alright, so let's do Jimmy. Jimmy, this one might be a bit harsh, but going on to B. Jimmy is basically the effeminate kid, basically the loser dweeb. He's a sissy. Jimmy is Sarah's best friend. Basically, he's the Tom girl to her tomboy. Jimmy's a lot more effeminate while she's more masculine. Jimmy tags along with Sarah. It's implied he has feelings for Sarah, which I am fairly certain they do. So, a lot of people really hate Jimmy because he's kind of a jerk disguised as a friendly kid, which he actually wasn't at the start. He grew into that role. I know a lot of people hate Jimmy precisely because of the episode If It Smells Like an Ed. The mystery episode. The one where the Eds are framed for a prank they didn't commit. And Jimmy was the mastermind basically getting back at the Eds. However, I do think he was justified against Eddy. Not against Double D and Ed, but definitely against Eddy. Eddy kind of ruined his friendship day. Jimmy actually tried being nice to the Eds for once, and Eddy wedgied him for it and humiliated him in front of all the kids in their neighborhood. So, yeah, he was kind of justified against Eddy. I will defend that, but yeah, Double D and Ed did not deserve it. But they laughed at Jimmy's suffering. So did everyone else. Naz, Kevin, and even Rolf laughed at Jimmy. Hilarious story, I misgendered him. Yeah, I definitely understand why. Yeah, Sarah always winning takes down an episode by some points. Yeah, she gets away with way too much. We all agree that the episode where he framed the Eds was at his worst. Yeah, okay, so I know If It Smells Like an Ed, the mystery episode, easily where he framed the Eds, it is considered one of the worst episodes of the series. Personally, I think the middle named one is a bit worse, but I do think Jimmy was justified getting revenge against Eddy, but he gets revenge on all the Eds, which is where a lot of people were rubbed the wrong way, because Double D and Ed did nothing wrong, and they get punished with Eddy when Eddy was being the bully. Question, was Jimmy the first femboy in animation outside of anime? No, I think Alfred Ashford from Resident Evil Veronica kind of might have been that, but yeah. Jimmy's definitely a femboy, but he might be straight. There's some theories that Jimmy's gay or bisexual, but he's very clearly into Sarah, because he gets jealous when Sarah has a crush on Double D. Yeah, I know If It Smells Like an Ed, infamous reputation, but Jimmy actually being a clever mastermind, something I did not expect. He actually gets back at the Eds. This one kind of felt a bit justified against Eddy, because Eddy is a bully towards Jimmy, because he's the more weaker of the kids. So, very satisfying Jimmy got revenge against Eddy, but not satisfying that the two Eds were punished, which is why it drops to the worst episode. But if I had to pick a favorite Jimmy episode, I would have to say the Money Tree Seed one. The one where Jimmy actually gets a justified revenge, this time against Eddy alone. This one felt like If It Smells Like an Ed done right. Basically, Jimmy is actually depressed because all the kids are fighting. He just wants to be happy. He wants to enjoy summer. He wants to have fun. Sarah and Johnny are fighting each other. Jimmy's tired of all this depressing mean-spiritedness, and Eddy decides to take advantage of him and scams him out of his well-earned money by promising this great town called Smileyville, this happy-go-lucky children's theme park. Jimmy pays his money for it, and spoilers, there is no theme park, there's nothing there. They fooled him and Eddy conned him like a total dickhead, and this one, much better than the mystery episode because Jimmy is actually justified in his revenge because he only wants to get back at Eddy. There's that episode where Jimmy became a sumo wrestler. I want to be a star! Yeah. I guess Jimmy figured the other two Eds were as guilty by association since they always hang with Eddy, but I don't know. Yeah, that was kind of the problem. If It Smells Like an Ed had one of the biggest series sins, one of the worst elements of Ed and Eddy is if one of the Eds does something bad, then all three of them have to be punished, and that one really kick-started the trend. Like, if Eddy does something bad, then the other two Eds suffer with him. If Double D annoys the cul-de-sac kids, the other two Eds suffer with him. If Ed is stupid and terrorizes the neighborhood, the other two Eds suffer with him. That, I do kind of agree, the worst aspect ever. If one of the Eds does something bad, then all three of them have to suffer, and If It Smells Like an Ed really solidified that concept, and it's why a lot of people hate it, because Eddy was the only one in the wrong, while the other two Eds basically suffer the same fate as he does, even though they were less bad. Yeah, that was pretty much why people hate it too, and Jimmy also gets away completely scot-free, but he does slip on a banana peel, so he hurts himself. Yeah, not as satisfying. Anyways, talking about a good Jimmy episode, the money tree scene. I love this one a lot because Jimmy actually gets revenge against Eddy this time, not the other two Eds. The other two Eds do not suffer with him. Basically, Rolf helps play the role of Jimmy's guardian angel. He begs Rolf to help him, and they pull a con over on Eddy. They claim Rolf has a magic seed that can plant money trees. Like, Eddy finds a fake tree with dollar bills and completely falls for it hook, line, and sinker thanks to his greed. We find out, like, this is all, of course, a bullcrap lie. Jimmy and Rolf are scamming Eddy, and Eddy 100% falls for it. Basically, Jimmy and Rolf want all his worldly possessions, where Eddy gives away everything he owns in his room for this seed, which we know is not gonna work. He trades everything he owns, and Jimmy gets his revenge, basically. He gets all of Eddy's stuff, and Eddy is left with a discarded spool. He actually rips up his family's floorboards in his house to plant this tree, which, you know, even if we didn't know it was already fake, why would you plant it in the center of your house? Marie is Kathleen Barr, who played Morgan Ainsland in Darkstalkers. Yeah, I think in the OVA, but not in the animated series. I love that Eddy actually rips up the floorboards, getting into even more trouble doing that to plant his seed, and spoilers, the seed is a discarded spool. They had the nerve to fleece me! Eddy gets his well-deserved comeuppance, he's left with nothing and is given a piece of crap. It will not plant him any money trees. Eddy tries to get revenge on them, stalks Rolf at his house and annoys him, where once again falls for a blatant scam where Jimmy and Rolf give him the real money tree seed. It is a bolt. Basically, they give him another object, and Eddy stupidly falls for it. He completely stops annoying them and plants his stupid tree waiting for it to grow, and we know nothing's gonna happen. So yeah, the money tree seed, easily my favorite Jimmy episode because Jimmy is a lot more justified in this episode, and it is hilarious the revenge he actually gets on Eddy. Very well deserved, very funny, and Eddy absolutely brought it on himself, and Double D and Ed don't fall for it. This also has my favorite Ed quote, "Even I am not that dumb, Double D." Very funny. Yeah, Trixie from Equestria Girls to Legends of Everfree. She's also main Trixie. Honorable mention, though, for Jimmy, I also like the Aliens episode. Anybody remember this, where aliens invaded Ed and Eddy? For those of you who are too young or don't know, Cartoon Network had this sorta crossover special event where an alien invasion would be happening on all the Cartoon Network shows. It was happening on Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Camp Lazlo, Billy and Mandy, my gym partner's a monkey, and Ed, Edd, and Eddy. Basically, aliens were going to invade the Cartoon Network universe, and they were the same aliens in all these shows. The Ed, Edd, and Eddy actually had an alien invasion happen on their show, and Jimmy has like a psychic Final Destination premonition predicting aliens are coming. Yes, I remember that like it was yesterday, Cat. Okay, good. Someone does remember. And she was in Care Bears. Okay. So, it was this fun crossover event, and I'm not sure people are gonna, like, remember this, like, years later, but yeah. Aliens invaded all the Cartoon Network shows, and Ed and Eddy was a part of this event. Aliens invade the cul-de-sac, and I would say this is also a favorite Jimmy episode because Jimmy has like a Final Destination premonition in his dreams where he saw the aliens would take their cul-de-sac and take them away. This would not get proper payoff until the Billy and Mandy finale, but yeah. Basically, Jimmy tries to warn everyone aliens are coming, and the entire cul-de-sac believes aliens are attacking at Rolf's house. It is one of the craziest episodes in the series, but absolutely fun, and I would say it definitely counts as a good Jimmy episode because he's actually forewarning them. Yeah, it is weird. Check out the Aliens episode because all the Cartoon Network shows that were hot at the time did this crossover. Basically, they set up the part where areas are being taken by the aliens, and this would get payoff in the Billy and Mandy alien episode, where we find out they're trying to remake the moon with cheese or something. Keenan Christensen was also RoboCop, Alpha Commando, never watched it. Actually, I remember the Cartoon Network alien thing. I remember being somewhat creeped out, but also finding it kind of cool. Yeah, the aliens are these weird Lovecraftian tentacle monsters. We get hints of them. They like showed up in Camp Lazlo, finally got a face reveal. We got a fake out in My Gym Partner is a Monkey, but the aliens had Gilbert Gottfried as an agent or something. It was a very trippy event, and it's one of those things where you had to be there, like a once-in-a-lifetime thing, like the Scooby-Doo project. Yeah, I would count that as a cool Jimmy episode. Yeah, Abduction about on par with the Shredder 2003 Age of Ultron. Yeah, it was a very trippy episode. They actually captured the cul-de-sac at the end, so another dark ending, but considering Ed, Edd, and Eddy have no continuity, they were fine the next day. Yeah, I will warn you, Ed, Edd, and Eddy is very, very on and off about continuity. Sometimes they reference stuff in past episodes, but in most of the episodes, the Eds end up dead or being beaten or raped by the Cankers, and they're fine next episode. Yeah, very rocky continuity. But I would say the Alien episode is also a good Jimmy tale. I once thought that Jimmy was a girl. When I grow up, I want to be just like Jimmy. Jimmy, yeah, right. We'll put Jimmy at B. He was definitely funny. He had some of the funniest lines, and Jimmy comedically gets a lot of comeuppance after the detective episode. Basically, it's a running gag that Jimmy gets hurt all the time, so he also has some funny lines. Prepare to meet your maker! Antonucci? We'll put him on B. Some funny moments, but yeah, the infamous detectives episode knocked him down from higher. Did you ever think about doing a SWAT Cats tier list? Also, it's fitting because you're a cat. I've never watched the SWAT Cats. I have to watch it. At least we got to know why Jimmy has braces. Yeah, Jimmy's hatred of the Eds is from the fact that they broke his teeth. Jimmy wears that funny brace because one of Eddy's scams went horribly wrong. They were feeding kids ice creams, and they accidentally put a bowling pin in Jimmy's ice cream, which shattered his teeth completely. Hence why he needs to wear this weird mouth brace, because he's getting his teeth completely fixed, thanks to Eddy's stupidity. So yeah, his hatred of the Eds is kind of justified, so we'll put him on B. Alright, let's do Johnny 2x4. Johnny, we'll put onto A. Johnny is the weird kid. He's the black kid on the block. He's the outcast. Johnny is basically kind of the weirdo of the cul-de-sac kids, but he's got a lot of funny lines and a lot of funny scenes. Johnny is the kid who's best friends with Plank. Plank is his, like, best friend, a piece of wood who he talks to and shares conversations with. Johnny has a lot of great moments. He's weird, he's crazy, and he does annoy all the characters, including the Eds. Melonhead, hey Johnny boy. Double D is the Moxie of this series. Actually, later feels like a cross between Double D and maybe Jimmy. Mostly his effeminate side, but yeah. Well, at least he can't use his phone since metal conducts electricity. Okay, so Johnny 2x4, you get the idea. He's the weird kid, he's the goofball, he's the class clown. All the kids even find him annoying. If the Eds aren't being shamed and ostracized, it's usually Johnny. Johnny annoys the hell out of everyone. There's an entire episode dedicated to how annoying Johnny is. If I had to pick a favorite Johnny 2x4 episode, easily the superhero one, the Captain Melonhead. If you don't know, Ed and Eddy actually did a superhero parody episode where there's a mysterious protector. Yeah, I wonder who it is. There's only like 7 kids on the block. Where Johnny is Captain Melonhead, a mysterious superhero and Avenger. The Eds get attacked by Captain Melonhead and lose their money from scamming the kids, where Captain Melonhead returns them to all the kids they fleeced. They were scammed by one of Eddy's stupid thingamajig scams, and Eddy was a bullcrap liar, and he actually deserved punishment in this one, where Captain Melonhead becomes Eddy's arch nemesis, and they actually have a superhero and supervillain battle. Eddy wants revenge on the mysterious Avenger, and none of the Eds know who Captain Melonhead is. Seriously, they never figure it out. Even Double D, the smart one, cannot figure out who Captain Melonhead is. The kids all figured it out, but none of the Eds do. At least Ed's stupid, but yeah. David. I remember that episode. It's so funny since the Eds were basically making profit to help people get rid of Johnny due to how irritated they are by him. Yeah, they turned Johnny into an annoyance to get rid of. They unleashed him on the public, and Johnny's so annoying and irritating. That one was pretty funny, but I like the Captain Melonhead one more. David Paul Grove played him. Also, Death in the new Addams Family. Oh, I'll have to see him on that. Robbie Robin and Crypto the Superdog. Oh, that was him. Okay. Doc in Once Upon a Time and Pom Pom and Elf. Between South Park and Ed and Eddy, with the superhero, which is better? Oh, easily South Park, because they get away with a lot more dark humor. So, as much as we all love the Johnny being annoying one, I do like the Captain Melonhead one more, because Eddy becomes Professor Scam. Yeah, Eddy gets this stupid villain outfit, and they have a good old-fashioned hero versus villain type of fight, and Captain Melonhead wins, and thanks to Ed helping him, release the gravy! He releases Captain Melonhead, and he beats the hell out of Eddy / Professor Scam. Johnny is actually a rare hero in this episode and saves the day, and Eddy vows revenge next time, and they never did a sequel to this episode. Johnny, people really like it when you ask why all the time. They do? Why? 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 I glue a block of wood to Johnny's foot. That one had pretty funny moments. But a lot of Ed and Eddy episodes had great moments. There is an anime opening with Johnny as a villain on YouTube, where Professor Scam became a hero in that intro. I'll have to check that out. Also, roll for Marie next. Okay, you want Marie, huh? So, really like the superhero episode. Easily Johnny's best. He comes out on top, and hilariously, all the kids knew it was him under there, except for the Eds, who never figure it out, which makes it more hilarious. Again, Double D's the smart one, and he doesn't figure out that this mysterious masked hero and his block of wood sidekick were really Johnny and Plank. But yeah, easily Johnny's best episode for me. I know people like the one where he's annoying, but yeah, sometimes he got too grating on that, so we'll put Johnny onto A. Also, by the end of the movie, Johnny becomes the new outcast. Johnny shows up, beats up the Eds, completely unaware that the kids have now accepted them, and Johnny becomes the new replacement outcast, which honestly, he kind of deserved, because not only does he beat up the Eds, but Johnny has been a bad guy in a lot of episodes. What comes to mind? The Zit episode where he makes a profit selling tickets to see Eddy's weird, gross blemish, and the episode where he annoys everyone, where Johnny pretty much became the villain in that episode. Yeah, can we do the Cankers next just to get them out of the way? Okay. So, Johnny going on to A. Anyways, gonna use my restroom break, so we'll do another vote. Cast your vote. I know people want the Cankers next, so tell me which one you want to start with. I'll be right back. Tell me which character you want next. I am back. Okay, people want the Cankers next. I want May Lee Murray. Alright, you want Marie because she's the fan favorite Canker. Mostly because everybody likes her design. She's the bad bitch of the group. Alright, we'll put her onto B. Yeah, I like her more than Jimmy. This one might be the highest of the Cankers. This is the punk girl, Marie, voiced by Kathleen Barr, who pretty much recycles her Trixie voice. Yeah, I know this came first, but it's the same voice as Trixie from My Little Pony. She's the bad bitch. She's the one that's obsessed with Double D. Basically, she has the punk girl and the nice guy nerd boy relationship going on. She's actually pretty funny, but she is also the total bitch of the group. She's mean to May all the time, and when the Cankers aren't being bitches to the cul-de-sac kids, they're pretty much attacking each other. Why she have blue hair? I think it's dyed. She, like, dyed it. She looks like Chloe Price that way. Also, she looks like Kagami has an emo cousin. Yeah, people like her because she's actually pretty funny. She's the funnier of the bullies. Kathleen Barr has, like, an evil witch laugh for her. Yeah, we'll put her on B because everybody likes her design. She's the hot punk girl of the area, but still kind of a psychotic rapist. And we'll do May next. May we'll put on to C. She's one of the more sympathetic Cankers. She's the dumb one. She's the one that's in love with Ed because they're both the idiots. May has a lot more sympathetic qualities because she actually tries being nicer and treats, you know, basically her sister's games with the Eds like just that, a game. It's all just fun and games to her. She actually got a lot of character in the Valentine's Day episode where she and Double D get hit by Cupid arrows and forge a nice romance, and really love that she pisses off her sister Marie because it makes her jelly. May, a lot more sympathetic, but she's also kind of their Ed. My trio of waifus. And last we'll do Lee, who going on to D, because she's pretty much the lead bully. She's the mean one. She's the one that usually pounds the hell out of her sisters. I think she's the oldest of the trio. Lee is pretty much the old-fashioned 50s bully. We never see her eyes. She's the one that's in love with Eddy because they're both the Weasley leaders of their group. So the Canker sisters are girl versions of Ed and Eddy. Yes, they are. They are girl versions of Ed and Eddy, but they're polar opposites. Eddy is kind of a 50s con man. She's a 50s bully. Double D's a nice guy, friendly nerd. He's the lovable dork. Marie, his girl, is basically the evil bad bitch. She's the punk. She's the bully. Ed is the lovable nice guy. She is the dim-witted Harley Quinn minion, May. I actually feel bad for May at times, since she does get dumped by her sisters and everyone else. Yeah, May is the most sympathetic of the girls because she gets, like, picked on the most when the Canker sisters are bitches towards each other. Sometimes she hits back. Like, I love her throwing Marie against the trailer when Ed and Eddy got caught. Basically like the Chipettes from Alvin and the Chipmunks, except they're rapists. Yeah, the Cankers, let's talk about, they do rape the Eds. Pretty much they're evil Ed, and Eddy, but the cul-de-sac kids actually fear them. They're the tough girls on the block. They're the elite bullies. They have the pole Eddy's brother actually had. Everyone fears them. They're OP. Anytime the Eds are up top or almost at a victory, the Cankers come and ruin their fun, and it's kind of unclear if the Cankers actually love the Eds or if they just use, you know, kissing them and forcing themselves onto them as a bullying tactic. Sarcastic Chorus did a very nice video detailing this, that the Cankers are more or less bullies. They're trying to make the Eds their bitches, basically. May is just the Sabrina miraculous version of Ed and Eddy. Yeah, except Sabrina is a lot more lovable. And Sabrina became a hero thanks to the dog Miraculous, whereas May was set up for a redemption arc, but never happened. Basically, the Eds like to rape the Cankers like to rape the Eds, and they give them their humiliation at every episode. If the Eds are trying to pull a scheme, the Cankers come along and ruin their chances. Okay, so if I had to pick a favorite Cankers episode, Pits is overkill with this series. Okay, so if I had to pick a favorite Cankers episode, easily the Ship in a Bottle episode. That is the best highlight of the Cankers, the Ship in the Bottle. Once again, Ed goes on a sleepwalker spree. He goes around taking stuff and eating people's food. Ed accidentally broke into the Cankers' trailer and stole their family's prize ship in a bottle. It's like a family heirloom. It's something all three of the Cankers love, and the Cankers decide to hunt down whoever stole it and take the law into their own hands, Canker style. There's the episode where Ed was captured by May and used him as her plaything. Yeah, but considering how rapey that episode is, I wasn't too huge a fan of it. Yeah, the dog Miraculous that had the cool collar, but weapon and power is dull, like Doggy Kruger power and weapon is better. Yeah, way better. So, I like the Ship in a Bottle episode more because for once, the Cankers aren't picking on the Eds. They're actually attacking the cul-de-sac kids, and yeah, it is very satisfying considering how often the cul-de-sac kids laugh at the Eds getting abused by these bitches. Seeing them actually tear apart the cul-de-sac and turn it into a war zone from a Canker hissy fit. Very funny, very over the top, very outlandish. Basically, the cul-de-sac becomes a war zone. I love all the kids are running for their life, and we see the Cankers basically beat up and attack everyone. They destroy houses, they scare the hell out of everyone. The only thing I'd hated about this episode is we don't see the Cankers beat up Kevin. We see the Eds are narrowly avoiding being seen by the Cankers. They're trying to get the Ship in the Bottle out of Ed's hand. Basically, Ed did take the Ship in a bottle and it's stuck on his finger. They're trying to get it out, and the Eds have a B plot where they're going around trying to get it off. They're using new methods, using different procedures to get this thing off, and the Cankers completely miss them every time. Who are kids called cul-de-sac kids? That's what they're called. They're called the cul-de-sac kids because the kids live in a cul-de-sac. So it's much shorter to call them that. Basically, they're all the neighborhood kids. They're Sarah, Jimmy, Kevin, Rolf, Sarah. All the kids who don't hang out with the Eds. That's what they're called. He just wants his machete. Back in the case of this, they just want their Ship in the Bottle back. Yeah. It is hilarious how the Eds completely dodge them, and the Cankers basically beat up everyone. We see them attack Jimmy, which, if you hate it if it smells like an Ed, very satisfying that Jimmy gets beat up. Let's take it from him the hard way. And we pan out of his house, or we last hear Jimmy scream. They beat up Kevin, sadly off screen, really upset about this one. They beat up Sarah, very satisfying. They bound and gag her and destroy her room, looking for the Ship in the Bottle. Basically, the Cankers and Eds, of course, finally meet. The Ship in the Bottle was attached to Ed's finger, and they're trying to get it off. He won't use soap because Ed hates being clean. Is it just me for the... is it just me, but for some reason, through the 2000s to early 2010s, there were a lot of these rapey female characters similar to the Kanker sisters in different animation shows. Yeah, definitely different times. I do think this character is not dated. A lot of people say that it's dated because this would never pass, but we all knew people like this, and there were girls definitely like this. The Ship in the Bottle is the only episode where the Eds and Rolf survived the Kankers apocalypse. Yeah, Rolf and the Ed boys actually survived this. They corner the Eds, and just when you think they're gonna do bad stuff to them, nope, they are easily able to rip the Ship in the Bottle off of Ed's finger without hurting him. Yeah, the Eds actually get out on top, and the Kankers go home with their ship in a bottle, and it ends on a bittersweet ending because the Eds finally came out on top, but then Eddy gets his finger stuck in the sink, and we do this thing all over again. So, very satisfying that the bad cul-de-sac kids got punished. The Eds and Rolf actually survived the Kanker apocalypse and came out on top, so it's why I think it's their best episode. Marie makes it higher because everyone loves her design. I do like Kathleen Barr's performance because it's her tricksy voice. May is at least sympathetic, but, you know, she's still going along with her evil, sexual, deviant sisters. And Lee's definitely the bottom because she is the mean girl. She's the alpha bitch of their group. So, we'll put them all scattered. Alright, so let's rip the band-aid off and finally talk about Kevin. Oh boy, Kevin. I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of differing reactions. So, Kevin is an idiot bully, but they do imply there is a lot more to him. So, Kevin is the ace. He's the real big man on campus. He's Eddy's rival. He pretty much is a bully, but only towards the Eds mostly. Kevin is the jock. Basically, Kevin is a dick to the Eds because it's strongly implied that Eddy's brother was a bully towards him, and that Kevin is projecting all his hatred for Eddy's brother onto Eddy himself. He treats Eddy just as badly as he does treat his brother. Kevin was beat up and tormented by Eddy's douchebag brother, and it's why Kevin has a hate boner for the Eds, especially Eddy. It could have been worse, cat, a lot worse. Insert image of species. The animation of the Kankers fighting over the Ship in the Bottle was interesting. Yeah, kind of Looney Tunes-esque. Okay, so Kevin used to be pretty much Eddy's brother's doormat. He beat him up, he tormented him, and Kevin has a huge fear of Eddy's brother, which is why in the movie he's trying to stop the Eds from reaching the brother. So Kevin is partially sympathetic because he hates Eddy because Eddy reminds him of his douchebag brother and projecting a lot of that hatred he had for his bully onto Eddy because Eddy's a lot weaker. Yeah, Kevin's actress played Marie also. Yeah, Kathleen Barr is both Marie Kanker and Kevin. I'm very surprised Kathleen Barr is very good. But Kevin has a sympathetic side story, and we do see the kids actually like him. The cul-de-sac kids actually hang out with him. They actually treat him with respect, and Kevin is pretty cool with everyone, except for the Eds. But it's a big reason why people hate Kevin. So, Kevin, a bit tricky, but we might put him on to D. For dork. Yeah, Kevin's the one who says dorks. He hates the Eds, so Kevin would have been a lot higher, but he does have a lot of the worst episodes of the series, and not helping matters is that Kevin gets away with a lot of BS until the movie. This was fun, Cat. I'll see your next tier list and the new reviews. Bye, Cat. See you, Christopher. Oh, we're almost done. So, Kevin, he's an idiot bully, but he actually has a sympathetic story. Eddy's brother was a dickhead to him, and it's why he has a hate boner for the Eds. What lowers him down easily, everyone hates that middle name episode and the picture day episode, where Kevin pretty much acts like a complete douchebag towards Eddy and gets away with it completely scot-free. Yeah, you all know the middle name episode and picture day episode, which are easily two of the worst episodes of the series because Eddy is tormented and bullied through no fault of his own and basically suffers while Kevin pretty much gets rewarded for being a bully. like why girls played male characters and female characters. This is because women can sound like little boys. Little boys do not go through puberty until much later, so they kind of get a female voice actress because they sound like a young teenage boy enough. Yeah, when you're a boy, you're basically going through puberty. Your voice cracks are a lot more noticeable than a girl's voice cracks. Basically, they needed girls to play boys because they need to sound like actual little boys. Because most adult men cannot do a very good young voice. So, my favorite Kevin episode has to be the Needles episode, the Booster Shot Day episode, where Eddy finally gets some justified payback against Kevin. Kevin has a crippling phobia of needles, and Eddy lies and says it's flu shot day. Ed signed them all up for the nurse's station to gain some extra credits, and Eddy takes advantage of this, reading Kevin's file, and finds out Kevin's afraid of needles. And honestly, in one of the few instances where you actually feel for Kevin, Kevin has like total trauma and PTSD flipping out because he's terrified of needles, and Eddy and Ed basically gaslight and troll him and screw with him. In probably their most well-deserved payback, they scare him with the fact that he's gonna get a shot and traumatize Kevin for life, which very satisfying, especially after the infamous middle named episode. What sucks about the Picture Day episode is that Kevin seemed to be doing it for no reason. Usually he is somewhat justified in being pissed at the Eds, but here it was pretty much for nothing. Yeah, that episode, Picture Day and the middle name episode, Kevin had no reason to go after the Eds for once. We just see Kevin does not strike the Eds first unless they piss him off, but in his worst episodes, he is pretty much preemptively striking them, going after them for really no reason, which is why people don't like Kevin, because he is a bully, no different from the guy who used to pick on him. The Picture Day episode, he ruined Eddy's picture, and he was the one responsible for everything, and he gets away with it all. Oh, good lord, the ship in a bottle belongs to the Cankers. Cankers! Every man for himself! Who, what, where, why? Who doesn't have a fear of needles? Well, I think doctors, for one, because you see it all the time. But basically, Kevin's afraid of needles, he's running for his life, and Double D actually befriends Kevin, sort of, in this episode. He reveals that it's not Booster Shot Day. Kevin wants payback against Eddy and Ed. However, they both hatch a more clever scheme to get back at Eddy. Ed forces Eddy to volunteer for a booster shot to show Kevin that needles aren't scary, and Eddy gets stabbed by a needle too, and Eddy, complete hypocrite, he's also afraid of needles, even though he was bullying Kevin for it, and both Eddy and Kevin both get their booster shots, and Ed manages to get away, so happy ending for him. That might be my favorite Kevin episode, because you actually do kind of feel for him, and he does get some well-deserved comeuppance for being a dickhead towards the Eds. The Picture Day episode and the middle name episode are non-canon. Don't care what anyone else says, I said it so low. Yeah, those two are worse. That is why Kevin is dropped down to D, because we all hate those episodes, and it doesn't help that Kevin is a central focus in that. Kevin is a total dick, blackmailing Eddy with his middle name, says he won't reveal it if he does favors for him, and like a total dickhead, he revealed it anyway, meaning Eddy suffered humiliation for nothing, and Kevin is just an unsympathetic douchebag in both of those. Picture Day, he ruined Eddy's picture for really no reason, and basically trolls him and psychologically torments him by spreading the picture across school, and Eddy is the one who gets punished for it, even though it was all of Kevin's bullying, which people did not like. At least in the movie, he finally gets comeuppance. In the movie, if you don't know, the Eds are on the lam and they go on an adventure around the world trying to get to Eddy's brother. Kevin is trying to track them down and get some revenge because this time the Eds have gone way too far. Now they're out for blood, and Kevin basically ruins his chances with Naz, so well-deserved comeuppance. He keeps choosing his bike because he wants to plow his bike more than her. His bike gets totally destroyed, and it is very satisfying and deserved. He gets beat up by the Cankers. He gets scared by Eddy's brother, and Kevin actually does reform at the end. He stands up for Eddy when Eddy is being abused by his brother, which, yeah, some people found confusing because the kids beat up the Eds all the time, so why is it different this time? Well, because Eddy's brother is a grown adult who's abusing children. So yeah, Kevin actually does redeem himself at the end, which is why he's not in F tier with Sarah, because Kevin's heel face turn was a lot more planned out and a lot more meaningful. He stands up for Eddy, and they call out Eddy's brother, where Ed manages to beat him up, and they finally welcome the kids with open arms. Kevin actually makes peace with the Eds by the end and gives them free jawbreakers. Also, I have Old Spice Since Batman Black Cherry body wash. Like, it's a shame Catwoman never have one. What would Catwoman smell like? I think she smell like milk. But yeah, Kevin will put on D because he's a dork. Alright, next, let's do the other idiot bully, Eddy's brother. And this one is a tough one because Eddy's brother is the villain of the series. But he's also a character we're meant to hate, so I can't put him onto F tier. Eddy's brother might put onto B or C. We'll put him on B. Eddy's brother. Yep, we finally meet Eddy's brother in the movie. So, Eddy's brother, excellently built up to, foreshadowed. We get hints of Eddy's brother and what he's like. Eddy's brother was the cool guy. He was the most popular dude. He was the ruler of the cul-de-sac, the big man on campus, the ace, the guy everyone looked up to, and the movie reveals that was all a total bullcrap lie. We still don't know what the scam in the movie, and the creator never explained it. Well, we know there was a big red button involved. So, Eddy's brother does not show up until the final act of the movie. Basically, this guy is built up to throughout the series. Eddy frequently mentions his brother, how cool he is, all the great things he's done, and we get hints here and there that Eddy's brother is not a good guy. We see his room, we see the treasure map led them under to the Cankers trailer park, he had the Spookyville map for Halloween, which only brought them in a circle, and he purposely sends Eddy packages of baby stuff knowing he's not a baby, which hints at his true nature. Terry Klassen played him, also played King Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z, yeah. So, we don't meet Eddy's brother until the finale. In the movie, the Eds pull a scam which goes horribly, horribly wrong. It, literally almost killed everybody. All the cul-de-sac kids were horribly maimed. All the Eds are in trouble. They're brutalized. They're running for their lives, and Eddy comes up with the brilliant idea to run away to seek his brother, because his brother will protect him, since Eddy's brother is so cool. Where the entire movie is basically a cross-country journey all the way to Eddy's brother's house. They try to find him, try to get to him, and we finally see Eddy's brother, who, yeah, looks like an older version of Eddy. Really hilarious. Pretty shocking too. This is like the first new character we ever saw, and one of the very rare adults, because Eddy's brother is an adult. What was Eddy's scam in the beginning of the movie? Well, that's the thing, Monica. We never know. It's kind of like the case in Pulp Fiction, the briefcase. We never know what's inside of it. We never know what the scam was. Basically, there was this huge scam on the block, and Eddy screwed it up somehow, and it blew up and maimed all the kids. Like, Johnny has like a bear trap on his face. Rolf has like bite marks all over him. Naz is like in a magic box, is completely destroyed, and her hair is completely stripped of her. Like, Naz is totally bald, and Kevin looks like he was beat up in a war. Really horrific stuff, and all the Eds do not look much better. They're like covered in ash and have their tattered clothes. Also, Topside and G.I. Joe, a real American hero, and the Impossible Man. I did see him on that, the anime Fantastic Four. Yeah, we don't know. The scam blew up, apparently, and maimed all the kids horribly. They're running for their lives, and they finally make it to Eddy's brother, and Eddy's brother at first seems cool. He welcomes the Eds in. He scares the cul-de-sac kids off. However, in a dark twist, we find out the truth. Eddy's brother is not this cool guy. He is an abuser. He is nothing more than an idiot bully who grew up into an idiot low-life thug who works a crappy job at an amusement park and basically torments kids for sick kicks. Eddy's brother basically abused Eddy all his life. Eddy is the way he is because he was trying to be like his bro, and Eddy was so beaten down that he believed he could be nothing unless he was like his brother. So, yeah, Eddy's brother, actually, he's an abuser. They actually play this unironically dead serious. He beats up Eddy basically for fun and torments him in front of his own friends, and we get the realization that this guy is actually a douchebag. This guy is a low-life prick, and he tormented Eddy and all the other kids back when he ruled the cul-de-sac, and yeah, Eddy's brother, basically he's the villain of the series. He was the true force of evil. He's the one that caused the Eds to be who they are, and Eddy's is acting basically trying to be his successor, trying to be like his brother, and not realizing that his brother is evil until literally all the kids call him out. He beats up Eddy, and all the cul-de-sac kids actually stand up for the Eds, tell him to back off, that he should be ashamed, and Double D tries standing up for him, and Ed actually does something smart and beats up Eddy's brother, where he's kind of anticlimactically taken out by a screen door, but yeah, Eddy's brother gets beat up and finally taken down a peg, and Eddy finally confesses his whole life and persona was a lie. He made it all up. He wanted to make his brother seem cool because he believed it, and he believed being like his douchebag bro would make him cool, but this finally brought the revelation that Eddy's brother is a monster. And yeah, Eddy's brother got beat up, and then the cankers rape him. Yeah, they drag Eddy's brother off to do something to him, and if you know the cankers, you know what that is. Yeah, Eddy's brother gets punished in the end, and kind of hard to say he's a bad character because this guy is supposed to be hated. He's genuinely an actual villain. Unlike Kevin, who's supposed to have sympathetic moments, and Sarah, who's supposed to be sad at times, Eddy's brother actually a total evil force. Eddy's brother, I will put on B because he is barely a presence, but ultimately as the greater scope villain of Ed and Eddy and the cause behind all of Eddy's actions, definitely elevates him very high. Like, see, Cartoon Network goes hard, like why they stopped showing abusers. Yeah, Cartoon Network actually used to have a lot of great episodes showing bad, toxic, abusive relationships. Ed and Eddy, Billy and Mandy, and Courage the Cowardly Dog had one of the best ones ever. Watch my top 10 best Courage episodes if you know what I'm talking about, but Cartoon Network used to have a lot of episodes that addressed abuse, which were so good. However, they stopped these because basically David Zaslav wanted to go back to kiddie shit. He's afraid that this will trigger people and afraid kids can't handle that, so we're back to stupid-ass kiddie hijinks like all the Thomas cartoons and that crap. Have you seen Sonic the Hedgehog's crossover at DC? No, I have not. Yeah, Eddy's brother, he's going on to B because pretty excellent villain writing and a very shockingly real depiction of domestic abuse. He is definitely the villain of the series, but a pretty good one. Only on B because he is barely a presence in the main show itself. He got hinted at, but didn't really do anything until the final act of their finale. I assume Naz had a crush on Eddy's brother because of that episode where Eddy said that his big bro was coming home. Yeah, so some of the cul-de-sac kids were around when Eddy's brother used to be there. Eddy's brother used to be a kid on the block like everyone else, and some kids don't know him. Sarah wasn't born yet. Jimmy didn't know him. Double D did not move in the neighborhood until he was really little, and Johnny doesn't seem to have any knowledge of the brother. Only Naz, Kevin, and Rolf knew Eddy's brother, and it's implied by Rolf and Kevin's reactions that Eddy's brother used to bully them, beat them up. Rolf protects his animals, which gives you some very creepy hints that Eddy's brother might have tortured even his small animals for fun. Like maybe because they don't want parents to sue WB to lose money. Well, WB's already losing money. Yeah, Eddy's brother used to bully Kevin, very strongly implied there, and Rolf is deathly afraid of him too, but Rolf is protecting all his animal friends, so possibly a serial killer in the making if he was torturing small animals for fun. Naz implies she knew Eddy's brother and had a crush on him, and considering that he doesn't seem to bully her, it was possibly trying to shape her up into being his woman until he was forced out, so Eddy's brother also foreshadowed that the parents do not like him. Eddy's brother has a room hidden in the hallways, and the parents do not ever appear in the Ed show, but it's subtly implied that Eddy's parents do not ever talk to the brother again. They kicked him out of the house because he was a monster. They did not like that he was a low-life thug and basically gave up on him and trying to put all their eggs into Eddy's basket. Dead Meat have both Smile 2 and the Substance kill count got copyright. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, I hate copyright blocks. If Kevin was bullied by him in the movie, gave him an awesome chance to finally stand up to him when he defended Eddy. Yeah, Kevin does stand up to him and Rolf stands up to him. All the kids call out Eddy's brother on being a douchebag, so yeah, very satisfying. All the kids actually realize that he's a worse person than they ever were. The kids, who occasionally bully the Eds all the time, are completely disgusted by him because Eddy's brother is a grown-ass adult, and Eddy talked so positively about him like he was this cool guy, and knowing that he abused Eddy basically for laughs pretty much turned the tables and made them realize how much Eddy was a victim of his brother too. Yeah, brother gets taken down a peg and is raped by the Cankers off screen. We'll put him on B if... he doesn't really have a favorite episode, but the movie is awesome, and he definitely made it very twisted. Let Plank be the next one. Alright, let's talk about Plank. The block of wood. Plank gets an allowance. Plank going on S tier. This guy is pretty much, I would say, the mascot of Ed, Edd and Eddy. Plank and Ed are the two characters people know of when you reference this show. Plank is Johnny's imaginary best friend, who is not at all imaginary. Plank is actually alive. He is sentient. We actually see him move and walk. He drove a bus. He can actually drive cars. Plank gone on S tier because he's cool. Could it be possible that Eddy's parents were trying not to have him be like his brother? Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at, Monica. Eddy's parents wanted to raise Eddy right, and that's why Eddy's brother is nowhere mentioned, and apparently doesn't even come home for Christmases because Eddy's brother doesn't come back. I think Eddy's parents kicked the brother out of the house because they knew he was abusing the brother and they knew he was a low-life thug, so they're more strict with Eddy because they want to raise him right. Compared to Eddy's brother, who is a total lost cause, he's just a loser thug living in a trailer by a theme park. Eddy's brother got a job as a carny because that was the only place that would hire him. Like why his defeat by a screen door shield. According to Dan Antonucci, Eddy's brother lost so easily because he wasn't used to feeling pain, which kind of makes no sense because how did this guy take over the cul-de-sac unless he wasn't able to take a punch? But yeah, apparently he was weak-willed this whole time. Like, are we going to have a Teen Titans 2003 character tier list? Maybe, but that has a small cast too. Like Plank feels like Rocco from Sesame Street that Zoe have. So, Plank is Johnny's imaginary best friend, and there's a fan theory that Plank is actually a sociopath because he does some really terrible things, and Plank really hates the Eds. Like, compared to what Johnny's translating of him, he really hates that no-neck chump Eddy. So, if I had to pick a favorite Plank episode, there actually is one. It's his Daredevil rides. Plank gets an allowance and he likes to go on rides. He likes to go on theme park rides, Daredevil stunts, do crazy things, and it actually gives Plank a lot of character because Plank likes living on the edge. And Eddy, of course, wants to make a quick buck off of that because Johnny's imaginary friend is willing to pay money for their crazy contraptions. If you were young, which female character would you fall in love? That's kind of hard. Like a Plank have a soul of Johnny's dead brother. That's a fan theory too, that Plank was a real person. To be fair, the door could have given his brother concussion. He was barely responsive after it hit him, which I think is a symptom of Ed and Eddy. Oh, of the girls in Ed and Eddy. If I were younger, not sure. Most of the women in the show were undesirable. My only part of Ed and Eddy was the lore about Eddy's brother. So, Plank is actually alive, and he gets an allowance, too. Apparently, Johnny's parents are implied to be hippies, because Johnny lives in, like, a tree house, he protects nature, he eats, like, soybeans and tofu and all that, and apparently Johnny's parents bring a part of winter in for the holiday on Christmas. It is kind of hilarious, all the theories, and Johnny's parents implied to be total hippies. They bring nature inside on the holidays, and Johnny's Christmas house is pretty much an ice palace. He's Mr. Snowflake and I'm Jack Frost. Okay, so basically Plank has an allowance and he wants to go on thrill rides, and Eddy and the Eds try to make these fun amusement park rides which go horribly wrong, and they want to give Plank a good time at their Ed theme park. And basically Eddy gets pissed on all the time by Plank, and it is hilarious how these schemes pretty much backfire. The Eds constantly get hurt, constantly get beat up, humiliated, and at one point they almost die falling off a waterfall. It is a hilarious episode. And Plank is basically pulling their leg and calling Eddy names and being douchey to him. It's kind of hilarious thinking this cute block of wood is actually a sociopath. But yeah, basically Eddy builds the ultimate thrill ride, and we get our twist that Plank is actually alive. Plank deceived the Eds into getting into this dangerous, fatal ride, and he actually lied and triggered the ride himself. We see Plank actually move and send the Eds down a deadly roller coaster, and they get launched into the air where they lose all of Plank's money. Plank feels like he doesn't talk. He talks to Johnny, apparently. But yeah, Plank is one of the fan favorite characters, and mostly because it's strongly inferred he's actually alive. Plank is a sentient being in this show, and Plank is one of the fan favorite characters. When people think of the show, they always remember this block of wood. So I'll put Plank on S tier. He's the king of the cul-de-sac. And finally, let's end on a high note with Rolf, the son of a shepherd. Rolf also going on to S tier. Yeah, I'll put him behind Double D, but above Plank. Rolf is the foreign kid. He's the out-of-towner. He's the foreigner in America. He doesn't understand our Western ways. It's never said what country Rolf hails from. It could be Europe, it could be Asia, hell, it could even be Antarctica. Rolf is basically the foreign kid. He talks funny. People do not understand him and his cultural ways, and Rolf makes very weird statements. Rolf is the second most quotable character on the show next to Ed. So, Rolf is actually pretty likable. I like him too. Rolf is a hard worker. He's a farmer. Funnily enough, Rolf is the only cul-de-sac kid who actually treats the Eds with respect, but even they kind of push him too far. So, if I had to pick a favorite Rolf episode, it is definitely the one where they're roommates, where Ed moves out of his house and they move onto Rolf's farm. Rolf actually is nice to the Eds and gives them basically a home, gives Ed a farm as his room and allows Ed to stay here, and unfortunately for him, the Eds prove to be god-awful roommates who annoy the hell out of him. So, if you've never seen him, this has one of the greatest quotes. "The burden of hospitality is too great for Rolf," that big scream. Rolf is played by Peter Kelmas, who played Lou Gallo in the Twilight Zone Dead Man's Eyes. We'll have to look for him then. Haven't reviewed that one yet. So, Rolf, hilarious, one of the funniest characters, one of the most likable cul-de-sac kids too, because Rolf is actually a farmer. He's doing hard work, doing his chores. The Eds, unfortunately, annoy the piss out of him and stumble upon his farm very often. Rolf owns Victor the goat, Wilbur the pig, his big cow, and all the chickens, which Ed frequently tries to steal from him. Rolf is my favorite non-Ed character. I like how he always makes reference to his nana's wooden leg, or his father's childhood stories, or his great-grandmother's large feet, and the giant sea cucumber that nearly slayed his ancestors. I like the one where Rolf and Eddy have the fish duel. Such a cool climax. Yeah, Rolf's revenge is very over budget. Yeah, Eddy accidentally insulted Rolf's heritage by destroying a fishball, then giving him a plant, which is an insult in his country. Very, very weird, but very funny. He and Eddy have that cool badass duel where Rolf must honor the disgrace upon his ancestors, and it beats up Eddy horribly on this weird Smash Brothers level. It is pretty cool. I highly recommend checking that one out. Goku and Dragon Ball Z, and Wing Saber and Cybertron. Okay. Me, I really like the one where the Eds become Rolf's roommates. They live at his farm, and unfortunately the Ed boys annoy the hell out of him, and Rolf tries to be patient, he tries to be nice, he starts setting up boundaries, but the Eds keep screwing up. They annoy him at work, they annoy his farm animals, they steal his food, leave thousands of dishes for him to clean. He can't even get a good night's sleep because Ed snores, and for some reason, Double D and Eddy took his bed. Turn out that light. Yes, sorry, Ed boys. They pretty much take full advantage of him, and then they set his kitchen on fire, and Ed even destroys the kitchen sink, and this is too much for Rolf, where Rolf finally snaps and beats the hell out of the Eds and makes them indentured servants to him if they want the room. Yeah, he becomes the psychic, very happy. I am a wiener. He was also Randall Boggs in Disney Infinity. Oh, I did not know that. Speak No to Ed is my favorite because of how Rolf went insane because he thought he was friends with a wolf family. Oh, that's right. Ed gets a wolf pelt, and it reminds him of this wolf man that traumatized his childhood. Or when he and Eddy did the manly challenges involving falling off a cliff and crashing to the ground. That episode I honestly kind of have mixed feelings on, because the one where Eddy and Rolf compete for the manly chest badge, kind of painful to look at because it's basically two kids horribly getting hurt and hurting themselves. Like, Eddy, I know he deserved it, but it doesn't make it any less gross to look at. They get, like, their legs waxed and very gross and are thrown naked into thorn bushes and get crushed by boulders and launched sky high, landing onto pavement face first. Rolf won by one lousy second. Like, I don't want to see Rolf get hurt either, because Rolf actually didn't do anything bad in this episode, but yeah, basically two kids getting horribly hurt. I kind of have mixed feelings. Sometimes it's funny, but sometimes it's just too gruesome. Mama, the fairy tale that haunts Rolf has come true. He is famous as Big Daddy McColt in My Little Pony. Yeah, the manly challenges. That one, mixed feelings on that episode. I know Eddy totally deserved it, but it was very hard to look at. Anyways, Rolf is a huge fan favorite character. He is going on S tier for sure. Rolf is classic. He's funny. He's likable. He's actually one of the more nicer kids to the Eds. He frequently tries to give the Eds chances, and Rolf is more willing to hang out with the Ed boys than everyone else on this list. Rolf actually tries to befriend the Eds, even let them in the Boy Scouts, but the Eds are just too annoying, stupid, and epic fail at every turn, and that is why Rolf frequently joins the cul-de-sac kids in mocking them. Ed's Break Reality episode. I did talk about that one earlier in the stream. That's one of my favorite Double D episodes, where they break the cartoon physics. That is definitely going on the top 5 best Ed and Eddy adventures. I think the challenge was meant to show how strong someone can be. Yeah, that is the point, but it's still kind of painful to watch. And it's done. Yep, I guess the competition episode was meant to show how much Rolf could endure. You know, guess to demonstrate he can take a beating. Yeah, he can, because Eddy is a wuss. Eddy was definitely a loudmouth. The manly episode had some funny moments. I will admit, it's not one of the worst episodes, but it's also kind of hard to watch because it is a torture porn. Like, I don't like seeing Rolf getting hurt even if he is manly enough to take it, but Eddy, as much as he deserved it, also kind of painful to sit through. That leg waxing scene and the elbowing in the desk drawer scene looked really gross. Just got here. Did anybody mention Once Upon an Ed? Oh, you mean the story one? No, we haven't. That didn't make my favorite Johnny episode. The one where the Eds tell a story and we get to see all their different perspectives. Like, Eddy is the head honcho. He's wearing, like, his nice pimp suit, and all the other kids are weirdos and the Eds are servants to him. That one was funny. And in Double D's, his was slightly more realistic, but in his world, everyone is perfect. Jimmy doesn't have his braces, and Eddy and Ed are idiots who listen to him. And in everyone's favorite Ed, he has the fantasy story where he doesn't understand a thing Double D says. Blah, 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 yip, yap, dribble, dribble, dribble. And in Ed's world, it's a lot more fantastical. We need a Cartoon Network show tier list from the 2000s. That's still a lot of shows, and some I haven't watched. Like, I've never watched Secret Mountain Fort Awesome in my life. I like Rolf stories like The Giant Meatball or The Sea Cucumber. And Marie's scene. Marie's down here, she's on B. People like her the most out of the Cankers, which I can see why. But yeah, if I had to pick my number one Ed, and Eddy episode overall, definitely the one where they all switch identities. They switch lives. The Mirror, Mirror on the Ed. This is the one where they play Truth or Dare, and they all swap personas, leading to a lot of great comedy, a lot of great misadventures. I love the Eds impersonating each other. Like, Eddy becomes Double D, Ed becomes Eddy, and Double D becomes Ed, the stupid one. I can do Eddy, I practice. Can it, Double Dweeb? What do you mean you practice? Shut up, sockhead! I meant Marie's scene in Once Upon an Ed specifically. You mean the one where she's like shooting with her armpit chickens? That one was weird. Can you do a Teen Titans 2003 tier list? Maybe. I'm currently rewatching another Power Rangers show. Double D, that's disturbing. The Ed story was great, including the fact that Double D said blah 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 over and over on how Ed can fly. We have shelter! Yeah, Ed's a superhero. Evil soap! Deodorant! Yeah, my favorite episode overall, easily the one where they swap lives, like Eddy's acting like Double D, Double D's acting like Ed, and Ed is acting like Eddy. They really shows you how great the writing of this show was, because they were such three-dimensional, deep characters that they could all capture their personas so well. Love that Double D got casted into Ed's crap hole, and Eddy pretty much pisses off Kevin and gets beat up in one of the funnier scenes, and yes, Kevin was justified in that one because he pierced his brain with a telescope. What's under Double D's hat? I think it's a bald spot. Yeah, Marie's scene in Once Upon an Ed. You mean the one where she's shooting her armpit chickens and lasering everything? That one was weird. And Ed actually came out on top of the Truth or Dare episode. He takes a dare from Johnny Boy and Plank and Ed switch lives. Really weird that Ed is naked and sitting in Johnny's lap, but this show is very trippy. When will the Power Rangers tier be on? And as I don't want to miss it like that last one. Also weird that Ed has a tub of gravy. It's a tub of gravy! Okay, so I'm still currently watching this Ranger show. I'm hoping next weekend we do the tier list. Hopefully Friday or Saturday. Next Friday or Saturday. That'll probably be our next Ranger tier list. We are currently watching Power Rangers. I'm watching it with Wolf, so Wolf might join us with this one. But yeah, that will be the next Ranger tier list. Also, Ed likes chickens, so that raises some question. Yeah, he has Chicks Deluxe, and it has a picture of a chicken hatching. Ed is really in love with chickens. But as you can see, that pretty much completes our character tier list. We'll go over it one last time for any late birds. This is my Ed and Eddy tier list. Take one last picture. We got a lot more of the main characters up top, but we'll go over it one last time. So, in F tier, Sarah. She's the worst character of the show. Hate Sarah. She's a bully. She's a brat. And unlike Kevin and Eddy's brother, she did not have a lot of layers to her as a character. She is the worst character of the show. Then, Mr. Yum Yum, stupid rabbit, deserved to die. Then, Rolf's chickens, they barely did anything, and they caused the Eds to lose a race to the Jawbreaker store. Ed, and Eddy, wrong punished episode. Are there any? We did talk about the detective episode, If It Smells Like an Ed, where Jimmy falsely accused Double D and Ed, but he was right to punish Eddy. Yeah, basically all three of the Eds got punished for something Eddy did. I think that one should count as the worst unpunished, worst wrongfully punished episode. Someone came up with an insane story that there's actually a Siamese twin under Double D's hat that's not truly formed. Yeah. Not fully formed. Yeah, I heard that. I don't believe that at all, though. Jeez Louise. Cool. Like any luck of the Haunting Hour Monsters tier list, haven't formed one yet. Got 88.89 on my quiz. Oh, good job, Akira. How about a tier list on the Ed scams? There are way too many, Anime Night. This was an awesome stream. Thanks, Blacksmith. In E tier, we have Double D's pet Spider, who you all pretty much forgot. This character had like 2 scenes and was supposed to be a major pet, but did nothing. And we have Jim, Double D's cactus, whose biggest scene is Ed accidentally ate him. Going on to E, forgettable. Then we have D, the duds, Rolf's cow. Basically, your one scene is she crushed Rolf half to death. Then we have Marie, easily the most unlikable of the cankers. She's pretty much just a bully and the head honcho of their girl posse, but did not like her. Then we have Kevin. Kevin had a lot going on for him. He was layered as a character, but we hate him because of the middle named episode and the picture day episode, so he's going on D. Even his unsympathetic side could not save him from that. Nice, John, Akira. Do a tier list of your favorite coats of paint. Any Cartoon Network tier list? Who wants to see that happening? Not sure. I have watched a lot of Cartoon Network. There are some shows I never seen, like Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, which I do not even remember. Anyways, C tier, Wilbur the pig looked good in a suit and had a great moment in the movie. Victor the goat. Victor's gone mad, and that's all I have to say about him. And May, easily one of the more sympathetic cankers. Unfortunately, they did not do anything with her, even though it's implied she and Double D were actually going to be having a nice romance. But we'll put her on C. She's at least sympathetic. Then in B tier, the decent characters, Eddy's brother, the ultimate villain of the series. He was pretty cool as a twist villain, but all he was in the movie. He got foreshadowed in the series, and we got payoff by the end, but he's going on B. Jib, Ed's imaginary friend, he beat Eddy's ass. He's cool. Unfortunately, his work on the show was done. Then Jimmy, pretty funny, pretty alright. I know people hate his detectives episode, but for me, I thought he was definitely a funnier character overall. Then we have Marie and Naz, the girls next door. I understand people like them. They had their funny moments. We'll put on B because they are basic, but alright. What about when we saw Lee having 3 eyes? I didn't know that happened. Then A, the awesome characters. Baron O'Beef Dip is pleased. That is one cool toy. Johnny 2x4. He is weird, but hilariously weird, and he's a badass superhero. Johnny was one of the funnier characters. We'll put him on A. And top of A, we have Eddy. Eddy didn't make it to S because he has a lot of unsympathetic and douchey moments, but one of the greatest character arcs in the series, especially thanks to the movie finally giving him a proper resolution and a very deep exploration as to why Eddy is the way he is. But he's a funny jerk. We'll put him on A. Then up top in the S tier, we have Plank, he's the king of the cul-de-sac. Rolf, he's hilarious, one of the most quotable characters on the show. Double D, easily the most likable of the 3 Eds. And our number 1 character is Ed, because he is the funniest in a great comedy show. Ed is great. I'm a woodpecker. Tier list for Avatar: Last Airbender or Adventure Time. Yes. What are you gonna order? I'm ordering the barf bag. Where's that on the menu? Yeah, really funny episodes. So yeah, that completes our tier list. Ed is number 1, and his stupid sister Sarah is F. She is the worst one. But yeah, pretty much completes our list. Ed, Edd n Eddy, great comedy show, highly recommend. Some people have requested us to do a top 10 best episodes, but not sure where we stand on that. But yeah, I love Ed, Edd n Eddy, and it had quite the unique cast. A lot more scattered and all over the place, but yeah, Ed, Edd n Eddy, great show. I highly recommend it. Even with all the bad episodes, I would say it's one of the best cartoons of all time. But that completes our character tier list. So I'll release you guys. Thank you for all for joining us. We'll see what our next tier list is. Most likely another Power Ranger show since we're almost done with one. But yeah, we'll see where we go from here. Join us next time for more tier lists, more streams, more reviews. So thank you. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. or just tune in for more videos posted here on Wolf Entertainment. I'm your host, Catastrophe, and I declare gravy!